Chapter 1790. The meeting ended. Many people left immediately after the meeting. Director Charles did not intend to stay for long. After patting Han Dong's shoulder gently, he immediately returned to the General Control Bureau. Han Dong also kept the letter in the safest brain world and returned to Mr. M's side. Seeing that the other party seemed to have something to say, Han Dong obediently sat back in his seat. The white glove palm fell on Han Dong's shoulder and squeezed twice. It seemed like an intimate action, but in fact, it was to inject the modeling fluid into Han Dong's body to repair the physical injuries caused by the spirit bestowal. It seems that you have already seen such a big world in S01. I was worried that you would be so nervous in front of so many letterholders at the meeting that you would forget what to say. Your relationship with the Thousand Faces Demon Monarch seems to be quite good. You can actually perform a spirit bestowal directly. However, I didn't participate in the world invasion of S01. I only heard about this special old king from others. Han Dong was also curious about the Black Tower's name for the walker. Thousand Faces Demon Monarch? What happened back then? Mr. M briefly described the situation he learned, which was that the walker lurked among the team in various disguises, communicated with the members of the Supreme Will, and made contact without making a move. Han Dong was confused. Just a disguise infiltration and didn't make a move when there was a chance? That's right. This is difficult even for us to understand. According to those guys, this old king had many perfect opportunities to launch a perfect sneak attack and effectively obstruct the invasion. He even caused us to lose people in advance, but he never launched a sneak attack. Han Dong frowned. Could it be that the senior walker, Mr. M, was also curious about this matter? Do you have any guesses? Han Dong rubbed his chin and looked like he was deep in thought. He did not directly speculate, but first asked Mr. M. As far as I know, the fuse of S01 World Invasion should be the completely depraved, twisted, and arrogant human group at that time, right? This question was also what Han Dong had always wanted to know. Just how vile were the humans back then? What did they do to cause a conflict between the Black Tower and S01? That's true. Back then, the humans living in S01 were in a state of extreme arrogance and depravity. They had completely lost their most basic humanity. At that time, this group of humans had committed an audacious act of suicide. In a short period of time, they called for everyone to pass through the gate of destiny. Most of them were involved in different fated events in different worlds. A small number of individuals who had obtained the qualifications to enter the Black Tower directly headed to the important areas of the Black Tower. At the same time, they started a large-scale fate betrayal, releasing some of the hybrid demons from World S01 that originated from the Black Tower. This incident caused a large number of employees and fate participants in the Black Tower to be contaminated. Many important facilities were irreparably damaged. There were even deaths of managers. At the same time, 871 worlds of different levels were severely polluted, their laws collapsing. In the history of the Black Tower's development, the impact of this betrayal was enough to rank in the top 3. This kind of behavior angered the highest consciousness. Including Miss Bay, 9 members of the highest consciousness formed a special team to invade the world of S01. Of course, their main goal was to eradicate the depraved humans. Han Dong was a little unhappy when he heard this. What a suicidal act. I didn't expect the ancient humans to have fallen to this extent. If that's the case, the walker's actions can be explained. What do you mean? He probably wants to use your hands to eradicate the humans. Those humans are just a bunch of failures in his eyes. Predecessor, you should know that there are no humans in S01. The reason why humans were able to take root and develop in S01 is all because of the walker. Hearing this, Minter's eyes were filled with milky white dots. Interesting. If there's a chance, I would like to meet this walker in person. If the cooperation between the Black Tower and S01 is completed, Senior Mentor is always welcome to come and play. When that time comes, I will definitely be your guide. If the walker is free, I will act as the middleman for you to meet. Sure. Han Dong suddenly thought of something. All right, Senior Mentor, can you do me a small favor? Can you remove the restrictions on S01's Holy City clock? I have some impression of it. It seems to be the person in charge of the Holy City's Gate of Destiny. Mentor did not ask any further. This kind of small matter was not a problem, and now that he was about to establish contact with S01, there was no need to continue collecting information on the human cities. A letter with printed on it was handed to Han Dong. Give this letter to her. As long as she brings the contents of the letter to any Black Tower office, her restrictions will be removed, and her self-awareness will be restored. However, she should also be an individual affected by the pollution. When the time comes, she will also undergo a simple inspection. Okay, thank you, Senior. That's all. As the only candidate, your privileges can be checked through the employee card. As for when you will take over my alphabet, that will have to wait until you become king. The human from the Holy City has been paying attention to you. Do you want to have a private chat with him? When Mentor said this, Han Dong noticed that Commander Olivia had been waiting silently in a seat not far away. It doesn't seem appropriate to talk at the top of the tower. It's better to go down and catch up. By the way, how are we going to go down? Are we still going to climb the stairs like before? There are no restrictions on leaving the top of the tower. You can directly teleport to the lower or middle layer. You go down first. I still have some things to take care of. Okay. After watching Mentor leave, Han Dong quickly approached the blonde woman who was emitting a warm, holy light. Commander Olivia, congratulations on stepping into the realm of the king. Let's talk about the relevant matters down there. That's fine too. I feel uncomfortable staying here. Buzz. The two were teleported to the plaza at the bottom level. A round of greetings was naturally unavoidable. Olivia no longer had any barriers with Han Dong. As the saintess, she would even cover her mouth and laugh when they talked about their recent experiences. Although it was quite exaggerated for Han Dong to appear at the meeting as the only candidate, Olivia, who had experienced the London Games, was not surprised. Unknowingly, the two chatted and laughed as they arrived in front of the Fight Club. The conversation was about Han Dong's special performance during the meeting, especially the issue of divine bestowal. At this moment, an inexplicable sense of danger attacked. Olivia immediately activated her holy light domain. At the same time, she released 3 strange balls of light that surrounded her. However, waves of purple mist surrounded the two of them. A girl with goat hooves walked out from the front. Her eyes could not hide the hostility she had toward Olivia. However, the girl was more confused. She was confused about Han Dong. Sally had picked up Han Dong's scent a few minutes ago. Just as she was about to run out to greet him, she found an extremely beautiful blonde woman chatting and laughing with Han Dong. They seemed to have a good relationship. She also secretly eavesdropped on some of their conversation. She was puzzled by one of the conversations. She first took Han Dong's arm and pulled him to the side. She pressed her lips against his ear and whispered, "Nicholas, I just heard what you guys are talking about. The Gray Walker descending on your body to participate in the Supreme meeting. God borrowing is just borrowing an avatar, right? And it's more of an imitation of the divine persona. It shouldn't be able to let the Lord Walker descend directly, right?" When Sally asked the question, Sally was surprised. Han Dong suddenly turned his head, his face almost touching Sally's. A strange smile appeared on his face. He put his finger between his lips. Chill. Chapter 1791. You must be Miss Sally? We've worked together in London before. Olivia showed a friendly expression and took the initiative to step forward. Her bright eyes were like crescent moons, and she was very friendly. This scene would have been impossible in the past. Olivia was biased against the hybrid demons. However, after the end of the Great Expedition and the change in her impression of Han Dong, she was able to completely accept the hybrid demons. Hello. The hostility in Sally's eyes had basically disappeared, and she responded politely. She also looked up and down at this human woman who had appeared out of nowhere. To be honest, she did not have much of an impression of this woman who exuded a holy aura. She only knew that she had participated in the London Games. Other than Han Dong, the only ones that Sally remembered were a few king-level existences. When did another king appear among the humans? Just the radiance from her body makes me instinctively feel uncomfortable, but it's also very comfortable. Moreover, this woman's body cavity seems very special. It's similar to the palace that our Black Mountain goat race is born with. It's like some kind of confinement space. Sally was in a state of complete concentration, carefully staring at Olivia's stomach. Olivia was even a little embarrassed by her gaze. Miss Olivia's body seems to have a special space. It's a very strange feeling. Sally did not have any reservations at all. She directly stepped forward and touched Olivia's stomach, gently rubbing it. If this was the holy city, anyone who dared to do such a thing would be the highest blasphemy against the holy see and would be sentenced to death. Olivia wanted to stop her. However, Sally's palm had a special touch and warmth. It was very comfortable to touch her stomach, and it even nourished her internal organs. This also caused Olivia to not resist at all. I was born with a confinement space in my body. How magical! Even if I touch you, I can't feel what's inside. At this moment, Han Dong stepped forward and pulled Sally away. There was no problem for the two women to communicate normally. Han Dong even hoped that the two of them could have a good relationship. However, if Sally continued to touch her like this, she might get pregnant. Leader, do you want to go to the club with us? I still have a friend inside. I have to bring him out with me. Olivia looked up at the square buildings in front of her, which were as dense as a beehive. Instinctively, she took a step back. It's better if I don't go into an area filled with primitive desires. I haven't returned to the Holy City for a long time. Both the Knights and the Vatican have many things to deal with. Han Dong nodded. After all, he couldn't imagine the Saintess fighting a bunch of lunatics with her bare arms. If I have time to return to the Holy City, I'll look for you in private. Sure. Olivia smiled from the bottom of her heart under her veil. After bidding farewell to the two of them, she left alone. Sally heard the word private clearly. Although her expression did not change, she was determined to follow Han Dong to the Holy City. If Han Dong really had any deep contact with the other party, she also wanted to join in so that she could naturally observe the Saintess' body structure and the special space within her body. Perhaps they could even give birth to a goat with the characteristics of the Saintess and obtain this special gene for their race. Sally, what are you thinking? Nothing. I suddenly felt that the sister just now was so beautiful. Don't mess around. Olivia is the Saintess, the highest symbol of holiness in the human holy city. The consequences of being tainted by you are unimaginable. Moreover, she has been selected as a candidate for... She may have a good future. Oh right, how is Grimm? He's still recovering in the abyss. This is the first time I've seen Grimm with such a serious injury. However, even if he recovers, he will probably continue with the super difficult 18 challenges. Then give him a few more days. I'll use my newly obtained soul candidate authority to fight for some benefits. Sally, are you coming with me or going to the club to improve yourself? I'll go to the club. This kind of opportunity is rare. Okay, I'll come and pick you up in a few days. Sally, on the other hand, did not show much reluctance. She was already very satisfied to be able to explore C with Han Dong, and she also clearly understood how terrifying the upcoming danger was. What she needed to do now was to strive to raise her level to the level of a king before the disaster of losing control. He watched Sally return to the club. Han Dong appeared to be in a state of impatience. He quickened his pace and looked for the nearest public toilet. He felt like he had eaten something bad, and something in his body wanted to pour out. It had to be said that the public toilets in the Black Tower were very particular. The space was spacious, clean, and futuristic. In order to make it convenient for travelers from different worlds, the toilets were also designed in different categories. Han Dong went to the sealed compartment in the deepest part of the room. Undress. Dee-da-dee-da. Droplets of liquid kept falling into the toilet bowl. It wasn't excrement in the true sense, but sweat. Instead of suppressing his inner emotions, he let out a hearty laugh after setting up the seal. At the same time, It was accompanied by a large amount of sweat. The sweat even flowed out of his pores in small streams. It was quite exaggerated. It was too exciting. It had been a long time since he had been this excited. Before participating in the meeting, Han Dong actually did not think of using spirit borrowing. This was an idea that came to him when he was receiving so much attention and was gradually getting into a good mood. The risk was extremely high. If it was seen through, Han Dong's qualification as the only candidate would be directly stripped, and it would even cause a lot of disgust. If it was successful, he would be the real axis that drove the cooperation and operation of the two worlds. The madness that came from Han Dong's body made him make a decision on the spur of the moment. Play a big game. Han Dong also believed that the Walker should be able to predict the situation here and lend him a special incarnation. The Faceless God. This incarnation is too good. It is simply a reversal of the weak Walker. Ha ha, I really want to do it again. Just thinking about it makes my brain tremble with excitement. Han Dong talked to himself crazily while licking his lips. This state lasted for a full 10 minutes. When the sweat stopped and the crazy laughter reached a certain level, Han Dong fell into a state of immersion and self-satisfaction. 2 fingers drew across the corner of his mouth, outlining a black smiley face. Squeak, 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 gray tentacles overflowed from behind him. Tap, tap, tap. His leather shoes stepped on the ground regularly and even stood on the toilet lid. His body began to dance according to his current state of mind. The swaying of his arms and tentacles seemed disorderly, but it followed some kind of chaos theory. While immersed in the dance, the whole bathroom slowly grew gray spots, and terrifying tentacles emerged from the spots. It just looked strange, but it did not have any polluting properties. Even so, some of the brothers who were squatting were also scared and forced to stop their current work. They did not even have time to put on their pants and ran out of the bathroom, frantically reporting the horrible scene in the bathroom to the Black Tower staff. At the same time, Han Dong received a notification in his mind. The mythical puzzle, Faceless compatibility has increased to 45%. Soon after, the Black Tower Suppression Force received the message and rushed to the scene. When they rushed into the bathroom in a fully armed state, the situation inside was normal. There were neither gray spots nor tentacles. Only a young man washing his hands in front of the sink had just suppressed the smile on the corner of his mouth. Chapter 1792. Although the suppression team did not find anything, the previous abnormal situation had been confirmed. Naturally, they still had to carry out a series of checks on Han Dong. However, when they read Han Dong's work card information through the equipment on his body, the expression and attitude of the suppression team immediately changed 180 degrees. Han Dong's name was also marked with an asterisk, and M-designated candidate was written in brackets. Han Dong also made a very apologetic look. I accidentally released some negative emotions just now, and it had a certain impact on the toilet environment. I'm really sorry. If there's a need for compensation, just deduct it from my points. It's a small matter, and it didn't cause much impact. Since we've figured out the cause of the matter, we'll leave first. Wait, I'll go with you. I happen to have some things to ask the nearby Black Tower office. Okay, the suppression team, as the name suggested, was a special organization that specialized in dealing with emergency affairs in the Black Tower. Their headquarters was located in the middle level, and there were teleportation devices in each office. Once someone was found to be causing trouble in the Black Tower, or an abnormal index in a certain area exceeded the limit, they would rush over immediately. Of course, the ultimate person in charge of the suppression headquarters was also a primordial alphabet holder. Only when a beyond-eye crisis event occurred would this person personally suppress it. When they arrived at the nearest office, the staff in charge of receiving Han Dong was also extra enthusiastic. As the leader, Han Dong was led to a dark room, where afternoon tea was served and a commissioner was in charge of receiving him. How can I help you? I want to know the specific details of the fate system from mythical to king. Can you find the information here? We have the general information here. If you need more detailed information, We can immediately arrange for staff to go to the information building in the middle level to retrieve a copy of the file. However, we need you to provide your work card to greatly improve our efficiency. Okay, less than 3 minutes after Han Dong handed over his work card, a thick stack of information was presented in front of Han Dong. Huh, so much? Yes, this is the detailed information you need. It includes the definition of the process of mythical to king, as well as the systematic division, coverage, transformation, and overall analysis of the process by the fate system. At the same time, there are also some attachments that may be helpful to your understanding. Also, this is the afternoon tea prepared for you. Call us if you need anything. We won't disturb you from looking through the documents for now. Click. The door is locked. Han Dong picked up a cup of hot milk tea and took a sip. He was very satisfied. This treatment is too good. That's right. After all, I'm the future successor of Since I'm free now, let me slowly take a look at how the fate system is set up from mythical to king. Han Dong immediately immersed himself in reading. The 1,000-word paper would only stay in front of his eyes for 3 seconds at most. The content he read would be categorized and stored in his brain, and the corresponding images would automatically be derived. It's completely different. It seems that the higher one's level is, the more blurred fate's data division will become, giving more freedom to individuals and leaning more towards ideology. It's very difficult to use fate to digitize the process from mythical to king. According to the information that Han Dong had read, compared to the 5 talent points required to open the door, the mythical construction required 3 mythical fragments. The domain of wanting to step into king has been reduced to 2. 1. That is, how to turn the world depicted in the mythical painting into a king's territory world in the true sense. When the first step is achieved, one can be called a false king. 2. Obtain the qualifications for the throne and carry out the throne creation. Achieve the second point, and one can become a true king. However, this document was only a description of the process of becoming a king. It did not explain in detail the specific differences between a false king and a true king, as well as the differences between kings. If an individual goes to the destiny space, they will start the mythical trial. It is no longer a random throw into a certain world, completing a certain designated event or fulfilling a certain main storyline requirement. The system will filter out suitable large, sub-super, or super worlds according to the destiny system built by the individual, and all of them will be displayed in front of the user through the holographic projection. At the same time, a relatively detailed introduction of the world will be given. Including the basic system included in the world, the number of kings is based on good and evil. Once an individual chooses a world, they need to devote themselves to it as a member of the world and undergo a completely open experience. It often takes years, decades, or even centuries. When an individual reaches the level of a false king in a world, they can also participate in the king's trial of the world. In extremely dangerous and tedious missions, they can compete for the precious qualifications for the throne. Of course, the rules given by the Black Tower are quite flexible. If an individual goes to live in a world for a period of time and finds that some aspects are not suitable, they can also spend destiny points to buy the right of change and choose a new world. Due to the detailed information provided by the system during the selection process, the price of the change right was also very expensive, and if one wanted to purchase it more than once, the price would increase exponentially. Seeing this, Han Dong more or less understood. Thinking about it, Captain Alex obtained the throne of death in Olympus. Captain Malone is in hell and passed the king's trial to obtain the Demon King's throne. Whether it is the throne of a large world or a superworld, whether one is strong or not mainly depends on the individual. For me, there is no need to consider the king's throne. My throne and the world of the king's region will be built together with my growth. Once I reach the level of a false king, the throne will also be built. The new king's authority allows me to settle in any world. The only thing I need to consider is which world to settle in, whether it is the Black Tower, the Hybrid Demon world, or my own prison world. But these are all for later. Currently, The main thing to consider is which world to complete the journey to King. S01 will definitely be the main place for my experience. After all, I still need to collect the remaining pages of the Book of Necromancy. If possible, I will strive to take a trip around the Black Tower. After browsing these documents, Han Dong had a rough idea in his mind. The journey to King is completely different. It requires enough accumulation and meticulous carving of every detail. Every inch of chiseling in the abyss will have an impact on my journey to King. Since it is no longer a detailed data upgrade mode, I can't pursue speed because of time. I have to step steadily on the throne. There's still some time before C completely loses control. Even if I can't become king, I should be able to touch the membrane and at least collect the complete Book of Necromancy. Han Dong, who had completed the mythical structure, was not in a hurry at all. Right, now that I am free, I can go to the Ladybug Foundation. I happen to have a cell essence taken from Teacher's Incarnation. I will ask the engineers there to help me design and expand the prison world. Chapter 1793. The Ladybug Foundation could be compared to a subsidiary of Mr. M. Mr. M, known as World Modeling, was responsible for various departments related to world creation. Although he rarely came, compared to other members of the highest will, he was a relatively amiable type. The company could directly ask him for his opinion on any slightly bigger problems. The employees below were very respectful to him. Even every department had a portrait of Mr. M or a statue at the door. Most employees carried an M letter brooch. Han Dong, as the only candidate, was treated similarly. If the only son of the president of a company went to a subsidiary, the treatment would be the best. Buzz. Ladybug Foundation, game cabin. Han Dong woke up in a tank full of liquid. However, this time, the person who came to meet Han Dong was not the designer who was covered by the black miasma. It was the highest person in charge of the current area, Director Mars. Although he used to be very friendly, this time he had a sense of respect similar to that of a subordinate. Mr. Han, what can I do for you? Director Mars, let's talk as we walk. This time I came here mainly to ask for world expansion and decoration. I have a relatively special world here that needs to be expanded. Can I borrow some of your designers here? Oh, these are small things. I remember when I checked your information before, I found a lot of related stock worlds. Among them, Dry Town is a highly specialized world. We have no right to intervene. Other worlds can help with expansion and transformation. Han Dong quickly waved his hand. Director Mars misunderstood. I don't need to expand these stock worlds. It's an independent world unrelated to the Black Tower. Whether it's the world framework, the basic rules, or the definition of the world in your conventional cognition, it may be different. Therefore, I may need some designers with more divergent thinking, sufficient strength, and better adaptability to complete this work. In addition, I have a more excessive request. Any designer involved in this work must sign the highest level of confidentiality agreement. If necessary, the memory needs to be erased after completion. It's my personal matter. Indeed, Han Dong's request was excessive. Not only did he want to use the Foundation's high-end talents for free, but he also wanted complete confidentiality and even memory erasure after the event. If it was in the past, Mars would have definitely refused. But now that Han Dong's identity was there, once Mentor stepped down, Han Dong would be the trusted. Using some designers to build a good relationship in advance wasn't a bad choice. How about this? Mr. Han, can you describe the general situation of this world? It was also possible to give a keyword. I will send a world message to the entire company. If designers with experience in this field know that you need help, they will definitely take the initiative to sign up. When the time comes, how about you personally select the design team? Sure. Sorry to trouble you, Director Mars. Han Dong quickly filled in the specific specifications of the world, small miniature world, as well as keywords such as hybrid demon, prison, chain, and so on. When he saw the word hybrid demon, Director Marzu was still a little apprehensive. However, as the message was sent out, engineers who were scattered in different parts of the company and didn't have any important projects at the moment responded. If the Ladybug Foundation is compared to Dry Town, the designers here were equivalent to the Tin Devils or the elite townspeople. They were the top elites and important components of the company. Most of them started as low-level employees of the foundation and went through layers of selection. Not only did they need to pass the test of strength, but they also needed to have technical mastery, innovative ability, and a comprehensive level of world management. The designers were also recognized by the Black Tower and were often invited to participate in the design of the Black Tower-related projects. In less than 10 minutes, a total of 13 mythical entities with different attributes and personalities came to the scene in different ways. Han Dong was also very pleased. Just by sensing their aura, these engineers were all mythical elites. Some of the designers' attributes were quite rare. This was the first time Han Dong had seen them. He first said, very politely, "Thank you very much for coming here to help me. My world is not big. There is not too much need for the number of people. 2 to 3 people are enough, so I have to filter a little. As for the method of filtering, you just have to answer one question. In addition, I will remind you again. This project requires signing a confidentiality agreement at the soul level. If necessary, you need to wipe your memory. If you can't accept this, you can leave now." Seeing that the designers were indifferent, Han Dong directly threw out a question. "Everyone, please design a prison or a prison cell. You need to give me a design drawing or a detailed concept in 10 minutes. There are no restrictions. Let's start now." The designers immediately used their abilities to model on the spot, or small modules, or filamentous lines, or some kind of mimicry liquid, or even some special condensation gas. Similar to Mr. M's modeling liquid, it was used to build a prison and cell model in a small space. At the end of 10 minutes, a designer could not complete the design and took the initiative to leave. A designer felt that his modeling did not meet his inner standards and also gave up and left. The other designers all stopped what they were doing. Han Dong checked them one by one. After looking at the design of the first labyrinth prison, he did not make any comments. He just nodded slightly. Then he looked at the second deep space prison and also did not comment. For a time, the atmosphere at the scene became a little tense. Han Dong, a young man, was actually strictly monitoring a group of senior experts with hundreds of years of service, and they were screened one by one. The fifth engineer, a one-legged man wearing a black cylindrical hat and leaning on a cane. What appeared in front of Han Dong was a fully open cell, incorporating some circus elements. At the same time, Han Dong noticed some special details. Well, a single-cell design, using performance to replace control. It's a bit interesting. Come with me. The other party also took off his tall hat. Only a few hairs on his bald head were jumping. A strange, evil voice came. "It's an honor to participate in your world project." Immediately after, Han Dong stopped in front of the last engineer. His image was a stooped old man with a steel wardrobe on his back. He should be the oldest among the designers. This person erased all the prisons that were modeled in 10 minutes and conveyed to Han Dong through the concept. At the same time, it also included his understanding of the concept of prison. It's a bit interesting. Come with me. The old man did not say much, just nodded silently. Squeak, 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 strange tentacles came out of Han Dong's sleeves. The strange aura made several of the engineers take a few steps back. When they were selected by Han Dong, the two did not have any change in expression. The soul contract was constructed. The two designers did not even look at the contents and signed their names directly. "Director Mars, leave these two to me." Chapter 1794. Funny Box, he had won the Foundation's individual Best Design Award for 3 consecutive years, and his overall design level was ranked in the top 3. But because his personal style was too strong, he was not invited to participate in most of the specific projects or collaborative design projects. Box Carrier Salva was the most experienced one. He was not only a designer of the Foundation, but also a world-level engineer authorized by the Black Tower. It was said that he had some unknown secrets within the Foundation in the early days. Due to the privacy of this world, We will leave the foundation and go to the Black Tower. Please be sure to bring the props you need during the design. Rest assured, Salva and I are the type of designers who bring our own equipment, and all the tools are with us at all times. The one-legged box pointed at his top hat and knocked on the steel closet on Salva's back, indicating that the tools were inside. Okay, follow me. Han Dong led the two of them out of the foundation and immediately borrowed a sealed secret room from the Black Tower's office. As the only candidate, he requested to be sealed until Han Dong and the others left voluntarily. When everything was ready, the sense of mystery was also in place. Box rubbed his hands excitedly. He was very curious about what kind of world the only candidate of M had, and why he needed to be so secretive about it. At this time, Han Dong landed on the shoulders of the two designers, and an irresistible space suction swept through his body. Buzz, the whirlpool teleportation that he had never experienced before, sucked the two into it. In the blink of an eye, he had landed on a dark plane between black and gray. All kinds of giant chains ran through the ground. A command tower that even engineers couldn't analyze stood in the center of the world, and it seemed to be bigger than when it was first built. There were all kinds of strange cries coming from everywhere. There were also flocks of crows flying through the gray sky from time to time. There was also thick black smoke rising from the edge of the world, and some strange functional towns could be vaguely seen. Close to the ground, one could vaguely hear the squirming of meat and the sound of gears turning, as if there was some kind of huge and sophisticated underground facility. When they came to this world, an invisible sense of suppression was exerted on the two designers, as if there were small iron chains running under their skin. Finally, two iron chains stretched out from their feet and took root in the ground. Generally, individuals who came to the prison world would be frightened and find it difficult to adapt to such a restrictive state. However, the two designers' reactions were completely different. When Baker saw this scene, he immediately understood the meaning of Han Dong's question. He was so excited that he jumped back and forth on the spot. This is an independent world that hasn't undergone much modification. Moreover, it's completely different from a conventional world. Even the most fundamental world essence is different. It was a huge prison. Any individual who came here would have their souls registered and their bodies imprisoned. Even their consciousness would be restricted in the circle. As a mythical body, you actually have such a world hidden in your body? I finally understand part of the reason why Mr. M chose you. That's great. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will definitely complete the project seriously. It doesn't matter even if my memory is erased. The reason why Box was so excited was not only because of the uniqueness of this world, but also because he sensed the same origin from Han Dong. Although he wasn't sure what kind of a tribute it was, he could feel that it was related to comical, circus, and madness. What Baker needed was a boss who shared the same origin as him. That way, he would be able to design and create circus as he wished. As for Sova the box-carrying man, his reaction was completely different. He had completely stuck his stooped body to the ground, as if he was feeling the origin and basic composition of the world. Although he didn't know what Han Dong wanted them to do, if they could understand the foundation of the world in advance, the follow-up work would be much more convenient. I have a tube of king-level essence here. According to my brain's calculations, once the essence is injected, the world essence will grow by at least 217, 3%. At the same time, it will also produce some space cracks and new resources. I have already organized the detailed data into a document. I hope you could do a simulation design in advance and get a design plan or world model that satisfies me. Then, I will inject the essence and expand and transform the world according to the model parameters you give. Han Dong handed the world information that he had organized in advance to the two of them. Sova the box-carrying man pointed at the Tower of Command. Mr. Han, can I go to that tower to take a look? It seems to belong to the center of the world. Of course, you are allowed to go to any area of the world, but there will be some restrictions in certain areas. There will also be someone to guide you. You don't have to worry about the contamination from the hybrid demons. I have already informed them in advance. Sova had an honest look on his face as he walked straight towards the tower. This old guy is as serious as always, but he's a bit boring. Rumor has it that he wasn't like this when he was young. It seems that he became honest after he did something wrong. Hee. The one-legged box always grinned when he talked about something interesting. Just as he laughed, a black face suddenly appeared. A face with black paint suddenly came close to him, and Baker was so scared that he took a step back. At the same time, he realized that this young man with a black smiley face was his client. However, his aura had completely changed, and the sense of homogeneity was particularly strong. Han Dong smiled and asked, "Mr. Box, have you always been a member of the Foundation? Your design and your personal style seem to have the characteristics of a circus." I was indeed recruited later. I used to be the foreground designer of the Dark Circus. After I was separated from the circus for some reason, I stayed in the Black Tower to look for similar design work. Later, I was recruited to the Foundation. However, although the Foundation's treatment was very good, the restrictions on me were quite high. Most of the time, it was boring. "You are a former member of the Dark Circus?" Han Dong was quite familiar with this term. In a sense, there was even a vague memory of the circus that was still imprinted in his mind. "Yes. Mr. Han, have you ever seen the performance of the Dark Circus?" "No." At this moment, a cloud of gray fog shrouded Han Dong. Ha ha ha. Terrifying and strange laughter came from inside. Pudgy, some funny white shoes came out from the fog. Slowly, a clown with a white face and red lips completely appeared. He was holding the iconic red balloon in his hand. The moment he saw the clown, the one-legged box actually showed some killing intent. Several thin lines that were difficult to be seen with the naked eye drilled out from the black fog. Some kind of circus mythical domain was spreading out. The next second, the clown directly tore off his face and turned back into Han Dong's appearance. As expected, Mr. Box, you know this clown. Pennywise. He was the guy I hated the most back then. He also caused a lot of trouble for the circus. How did Mr. Han know this guy? After this guy was abandoned by the circus, he caused trouble everywhere. He was even taken in by the Black Tower. Later, I happened to meet him. He was indeed a very annoying guy, so I killed him. If Mr. Box is free, can you tell me in detail about the Black Tower Circus? Let's talk as we walk. I'll introduce the world to you. Okay. Chapter 1795. What is the nature of the circus? A special organization in a certain world, or a unit directly under the Black Tower. The Dark Circus is a special organization directly recognized by the Black Tower, and it's also a world. Han Dong was taken aback by this explanation. What? It's an organization and a world? That's right. The origin of the Dark Circus is quite secretive. Even I, the foreman, don't know much about it. A long time ago, even before I was born, it was registered as a special world by the Black Tower, and the relevant documents are top secret. After I left the circus, I tried to inquire about the origin of the circus through the Black Tower, but I didn't find any clues. I thought that there wouldn't be any more contact anyway, so I didn't pay attention to it. Han Dong touched his chin and whispered, "If the circus itself is a portable world, it's normal for it to be marked as a special. Even if you don't know the origin of the circus, you should know something about its daily life, right? How does the circus usually operate? And what's its profit model?" Baker scratched his leg awkwardly. "Well, just like how I signed a confidentiality agreement with Mr. Han about the prison world, I also signed a confidentiality agreement when I was working, and it's valid for life. I can't provide you with much information, especially internal information. I can't tell you anything. It's okay, just tell me what you can. Because the circus is a secret organization under the Black Tower, it's not restricted by the world membrane. As long as it's an open world, it has the right to enter. Every month, it will randomly descend in a certain world. It could be a small world or a super world. It's completely random and won't be affected by any factors. The circus will choose an area with the least population density to take root and stay for a week. On the first day, it will distribute the flyers worldwide. On the second and third days, the circus venue will be set up and the audience will be received. On the fourth to sixth days, it will be a normal performance. On the last day, it will be the closing performance and the conclusion of the performance. Han Dong asked with a puzzled expression. Distribution of the flyers worldwide? Even a small world has hundreds of thousands or millions of people, right? How many people can the circus accommodate? The circus can only hold 1,000 people at most. However, only special individuals will be able to recognize the true appearance of the flyer and clearly see the location of the circus marked on it, as well as the relevant introduction. As for what a special individual is and how it should be defined, us workers aren't too sure either. These are all defined by the leader himself. Even the flyers are made by him personally. Every time, the number of people who can recognize the flyers and rush to the circus is exactly 1,000. Special leaflets, screening mechanism. Interesting. How are the tickets for the circus calculated? You don't need a house number. As long as you have the flyer, you can watch the performance for free for 3 days. Let me guess. The audience may receive an invitation to perform in the circus during the viewing period. They may go on stage to assist the guests and perform some simple performances. If they perform well, they may be invited to join the circus. Baker was slightly shocked, as he didn't expect Han Dong to be able to guess it. However, it was only a superficial guess. What happened inside the circus was definitely not something that outsiders could easily imagine. Yes, I became a member of the circus through the identity of an audience. I still remember that before I joined the circus, I dreamed of becoming a comedy magician. But no matter how hard I tried, no matter how I killed those who didn't like my magic or laughed at me for having only one leg, stuffed their brains into a hat, and performed a human structure performance, I still couldn't get recognition. In desperation, the circus took me in. I'm still very grateful to the leader for this. When the funny Baker talked about his past experience, he inevitably had some melancholy and nostalgia, but more of it was expressed with ridicule. Han Dong continued to ask, will the size of the circus increase with the recruitment? No, the size won't change. Once new blood is injected, someone may lose their job. The kid who replaced me back then, although he didn't necessarily have a good design foundation, he was indeed more suitable to stay in the circus than me. Of course, some of the audience members who were recruited were only temporary. They were used as disposable human props, or transformed into works for performance by the beast tamer, or become our nutritional supplies, and so on. Only the truly talented individuals can replace the original members of the class. Constantly optimizing the internal members? Did that mean that Pennywise had also been replaced back then? Did the circus find a more suitable clown than him? That's not it. Although I hate this guy, I have to admit that this guy's interpretation of the role of the clown is quite accurate. This guy's departure was a direct order from the leader. As for the reason, I'm not too sure. I also know that other than me, there are many people who have a lot of opinions about this clown. Then I'm relieved. If there really is a more interesting clown than Pennywise, I really want to see it. Han Dong had a rough guess in his heart. The nature of the dark circus was probably similar to Dry Town. This kind of special, individual elite world should eventually develop into a special department of the Black Tower. Can you use special channels to find out which world the circus is currently in? In theory, the appearance of the circus is absolutely random and secretive. But if you use your identity to check with the Black Tower, you might be able to find it. Okay, I'll wait for you guys to design and model in the prison world, then I'll try my luck. Upon hearing that Han Dong wanted to have direct contact with the circus, the comical Baker's heart skipped a beat, and his tone became serious. Mr. Han, if you really have something to do with the circus and even get a flyer to become an audience member, can I ask you for a favor? Oh, you also want to come out and watch the performance? There's no need to come out. I hope Mr. Han can share some of your vision with me and let me hide in your world to watch the performance. Then you have to do a good job. I hope you can come up with a design that I'm satisfied with. Definitely. Sharing the vision wasn't a big deal. This way, he could gain an employee who was completely loyal to him. Han Dong was also very satisfied. If these two designers performed well, Han Dong would transfer them from the foundation to become workers in the prison through an equivalent exchange. After leading the funny Baker to complete the tour and meeting up with the box carrier Sova. The two of them simply divided the work. Sova was responsible for the expansion and transformation of the world's basic framework, while Baker was responsible for the characteristic transformation of the command tower, trying to build some new world facilities and planning out some special areas. Of course, Han Dong also secretly sent a message to the professor to secretly monitor the movements of the two. Buzz. Han Dong returned to the Black Tower's office and immediately found a staff member to give him the 5 keywords. Dark Circus. The staff member's expression immediately changed. Mr. Han, we have no authority to touch this special organization. Please go to the middle layer to inquire about the relevant information. I'm really sorry. Okay. Han Dong felt that it was normal. This was more interesting. Chapter 1796. With interest, Han Dong made up his mind to take a look at the circus. While heading to the elevator in the middle layer, Han Dong suddenly felt that someone in the crowd had locked onto him. Han Dong, why didn't you say hello when you came to the Black Tower? After all, we're considered partners. The person who came was Handsome Jack, who had sewn the skin on his face. I'm a little busy this time. That's right. After all, you're now the only candidate for M, and the internal news has already spread. You're really good, kid. In the future, we might have to rely on you to deal with some difficult shipping routes. Do you have time to earn some pocket money now? You don't seem to be very busy right now. Even though Han Dong's identity had changed, Handsome Jack's tone was still the same as before, full of schemes and traps. Han Dong thought for a while and suddenly asked Jack, I'm going to the middle layer of the Black Tower. I intend to head to the middle layer to inquire about the Dark Circus. Does Mr. Jack have any information? If you do, I might be able to earn some money with the time I save. Jack's expression changed when he heard this term. Dark Circus. Although I don't know, my network might be able to get you some information about the dark side. Why don't you come with me first? I'll let you know if there's any news later. Han Dong didn't move half a step. He raised his right hand and gestured the number. If Mr. Jack can give me information in 5 minutes, I'll go with you to earn some money with the time I save. Jack was naturally unhappy with Han Dong's attitude, but the skin on his face could only smile apologetically. He really didn't dare to do anything to the current Han Dong. Okay, I'll try. Jack casually wrote a letter, and an ordinary-looking passerby immediately came out from the crowd and took the letter, spreading the information in a short time. Exactly 5 minutes. Another passerby passed the letter back to Jack. Han Dong was also a little surprised. He didn't expect Handsome Jack to have already established such a dense dark net in the Black Tower. However, Handsome Jack's ambition has always been like this. He took the initiative to give up the entire world of Pandora and even destroyed the Herbal Incorporation that he had established in the past, all so that he could concentrate on the Black Tower and covet everything here. He reckoned that this guy's ultimate goal might be one of the original alphabets. Since that's the case, it's better to maintain a mutually beneficial relationship with him. When he's no longer of any use to him, we'll cut off the relationship. Handsome Jack glanced at the contents of the reply letter, and his expression turned ugly. My connections here can help you locate the world where the Dark Circus is. However, there are a few segments in the middle that might provoke the Black Tower's Special Inspector Bureau. In addition, it's only the location of the world. As for where the circus is in the world, it involves the internal rules of the organization. Can you locate the specific world? It's enough. Whoosh! At this moment, Han Dong suddenly inserted his entire left arm into his brain through his ear hole. After rummaging back and forth, he pulled out a large bag of high-purity pyrolite ore. Han Dong wouldn't waste the ultimate technology left behind by the Herbal Incorporation. When he had nothing to do, he would produce pyrolite ore and maintain it in the underground warehouse of the prison world. Of course, if a special technological metal, like pyrolite, or could be used for the expansion and transformation of the prison world, it would inevitably promote the rapid development of the world's technology. Let's split 50 to 50. The points can be directly sent to my account. Handsome Jack's eyes lit up when he saw such a large bag of pyrolite ore. Before it was sold, he had already transferred 1,300 points to Han Dong. At the same time, he immediately sent his men to investigate the world where the circus was located. Wait a moment. It will take at least half an hour for the circus to go through the process. This organization touches the highest level of the Black Tower. Fortunately, it's just checking the location. If you still need the circus's personnel and internal information, I really can't do it. Thank you, Mr. Jack. There's no need to thank me. We're friends. With that said, Jack wanted to step forward and give Han Dong a friendly hug, but the latter stepped back and avoided him. Both of them smiled insincerely and looked at each other with seemingly normal eyes. They waited like this for a full 40 minutes. At some point, a special letter was delivered to Han Dong from the crowd. Just as Han Dong's attention was slightly diverted, Jack's palm landed on his shoulder and his mouth whispered in his ear, "Don't look at it in public. It will be very troublesome if the information is leaked. By the way, there's one more thing I didn't tell you. The Dark Circus is very dangerous. If you don't go in, you won't be able to come out. Thank you for the reminder." After Han Dong said this, he quickly retreated and disappeared into the crowd. He became a legend so quickly, and he's the only candidate. Sigh. It seems that I have to find a way to re-establish some channels to replace the Pyrolite or route. Forget it. It's better not to touch this kid. If there's a cooperation, then cooperate. If there's no cooperation, then just treat it as a gift for the future M. In the letter Han Dong received, there was only a string of code. When it was transcribed through a special mode, it became a world number 1183, a large world. At the same time, there was a string of remarks. The circus randomly descended in this world yesterday. The time is just right. Han Dong immediately opened a directional portal through the Black Tower office and went straight to the central city of the world. Buzz. Han Dong, who was wearing a crow mask and a black robe, landed in a cyberpunk city where humans and beasts were mixed. The humans living here more or less had the characteristics of beasts, or they were beasts themselves, but they had some human limbs. However, they were all intelligent beings, and their technology had developed to a certain extent. Han Dong also disguised himself as a crow's head and easily blended into the current environment. According to Mr. Box, the circus will take root in the place with the lowest population density in the world, but will distribute flyers to all parts of the world. The central capital must be the main distribution point of the flyers. Spend half a day looking for it. If you really can't find it, spread the virus throughout the city and enslave the mind. Han Dong, who was wearing a crow's head, put his hands in the pockets of his trench coat and strolled under the neon lights. At first, he was inclined to look for the flyers, but he slowly relaxed his state of mind and walked on the streets naturally. Just as he passed by a densely populated intersection, out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a piece of paper in the middle of the sidewalk that had been stepped on by countless people. At the same time, an old man lying on a maglev chair across the street seemed to have noticed it. Chapter 1797. Coincidentally, they encountered a red light at this moment. Han Dong temporarily stayed on the opposite side of the street, pretending to wait for the traffic lights to turn green. The old man sitting in the maglev chair was different. He ignored the circulating beast carriages and street trains and directly slid the wheelchair to the middle of the sidewalk. However, whether it was the beast carriages or the city trains that were about to arrive in half a minute, they all stopped. The traffic in the nearby streets had temporarily changed because of the old man's actions. Obviously, the old man's level was very high. Moreover, his image was somewhat different from the residents here. He was more like a human. Other than his mouth full of fangs, there were no signs of a beast on his body. The maglev wheelchair accurately landed in the middle of the sidewalk. A mechanical arm stretched out from the armrest and was about to pick up the flyer. A faster arm suddenly reached out and picked up the flyer. A young man with a crow's head had already put the flyer that was emitting black smoke into his pocket. He looked at the old man with a very innocent gaze. It was also at this moment. More than 10 bright searchlights shot from different directions. Several flying motorcycles quickly arrived at the scene. All kinds of firearms had already locked the young man with the crow. Warning, we suspect that you are threatening the life and safety of Governor Willis. Immediately take off all your clothes and stick your body to the ground. Maintain a fit of more than 80%. At the same time, you need to put your hands behind you where we can see them. These police officers naturally could not see the flyer. All they saw was the young man with the crow suddenly coming into contact with their chief executive. Han Dong was indifferent to the warning. He was not a person who liked to cause trouble, and he was too lazy to waste time here. After all, the circus had already arrived. If he went there earlier, he might be able to get more information. Sorry, I saw this thing first. Seeing that Han Dong not only did not do as he was told, but also spoke to the governor without permission. Dozens of pulse bullets were shot from different directions, just as they were about to hit the young man's body. Buzz! A strange black vortex appeared from the young man's abdomen, sucking in the young man along with the bullets. The aura disappeared. Even if the capital radar was turned on, it could not capture any information. At the same time, the various bullets that were swept away did not cause any damage to the road. It was as if nothing had happened. Governor Willis, the detector has captured part of the other party's information. We will immediately complete the individual information and pursue the suspect globally. Don't waste your energy. That young man with the crow was probably not a creature from our world. The aura he emitted was probably fake. Even if we searched the entire world, we wouldn't find any valuable information. Since the other party doesn't have any ill intentions, let's just forget about it. All right, Wang, Han Dong, who looked like a crow man, was currently standing on a tree branch in the countryside outside the city, holding a smoking flyer in his hand, written in a grotesque green script. The dark circus has arrived. Please follow the clues given on the back of the leaflet and find the admission spot. Admission will be based on this leaflet. If the circus is not found within 3 days, or if the attendance reaches 1,000 people, the flyer will be invalid. The back of the leaflet was actually made of a kind of soil material, and one could even feel small stones embedded in the soil. Only the soil material is a clue. However, most large worlds have a single galaxy structure, and the number of planets is limited. I can't be bothered to ask for information. I'll just start searching. He straightened his right hand. Hiss, 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 wisps of gray aura seeped out from his skin. Slowly, a gray iron door was constructed, a physical passage to the prison world. When the door opened, arms full of crow feathers appeared from the inside, and at the same time, many crow heads squeezed out. It was quite strange. Caw, caw, caw as a crowman squeezed out. A continuous flock of crows swarmed out, and in less than a minute, almost every tree in the suburb was filled. Most of them had undergone scientific transformation, and at the same time were also affected by the prison and more or less had chains or similar restraints on their bodies. Han Dong didn't directly give an order. Instead, he opened a brief history of the void in front of him. Using the book as a spatial medium, he spread his spatial perception across the universe, trying to establish contact with every planet. 1, 2, 3. As he recited, he drew circles. Stable spatial portals were built, portals that could lead to the corresponding planets. A total of 19 portals opened around him. With the Crowman Elder leading the way, they went to the sparsely populated areas of each planet to search. Han Dong only needed to wait quietly in place. He estimated that there would be results in 2 hours. The feeling of a myth is really different. A self-contained system. I am the truth. As long as the world doesn't have spatial restrictions, I can cover all of my senses. At this moment, Han Dong suddenly tilted his head, and his black crow eyes looked at the other side of the forest. You can actually mark me. Come out. The words carried the clown virus and directly transmitted to a target in the depths. The old man in the maglev seat quickly flew over, and at the same time broke a fong as the price to offset Han Dong's mental attack. Young man, you should be from the Black Tower headquarters, right? This old man is the governor of Beast Ring City, and I barely have the strength of a king. There should be no more than 5 people in the world who are stronger than me. If you need anything, this old man can help. Han Dong's face was still cold. Why are you following me? This old man is also very interested in the content of the flyer, and so far, I have collected 2 in Beast Ring City. When I was about to pick up the 3rd one, I happened to meet you. As he spoke, the old man took out 2 flyers from his pocket, and the clues given on the back were different. One showed the local sky scene. The other showed the outline of a mountain. Since you can use such a high-end space secret technique, you must be able to quickly find the circus's location. This old man is willing to provide these 2 clues, and I wonder if you can form a 2-person team with me to go to the circus together. Han Dong was actually more inclined to act alone, and he found the circus to satisfy his curiosity. However, considering the handsome Jack's warning and the old man's strength, in the end, Han Dong nodded. After receiving the other 2 flyers, he immediately shared the clues with the crowmen who were searching, and the efficiency was greatly improved. About half an hour, Han Dong had already landed in front of a portal and whispered, "Follow me. I found it." Okay. Buzz. Weird, twisted laughter echoed in the mountains full of strange rocks. The beasts that lived here had all fled. Bursts of black fog had covered the mountains, and the visibility was extremely low. At the same time, there were some strange signs with colorful lights and smeared with green glowing mucus on the mountain road. This is planet Krova. 100 years ago, we mined all the mineral veins on this planet, and most of the residents emigrated, leaving only a few miners and locals. It can be said to be an abandoned planet. I didn't expect the circus to be here. Let's go, don't waste time. Following the signs, they slowly moved forward, and unknowingly, they had already arrived at a relatively flat area in the mountains. At this time, the black fog dispersed. A castle-like circus was located in front of them, and the pressure it released made the old man step back, and even Han Dong was sweating. Chapter 1798. This is a circus? Why would an organization of this level descend into our world? Governor Willis was shocked by the ancient castle in front of him. He was also considered a pseudo-king level existence. Although he didn't have the throne, his strength could be ranked in the top 5 in the world. But at this moment, he felt an inexplicable sense of fear. His intuition told him that the circus in front of him hid a terrifying existence that could instantly devour his life. Han Dong was also shocked and broke out in a cold sweat. But at the same time, he began to observe the ancient castle and soon discovered some clues. The seemingly huge and majestic ancient castle was actually a special tent supported by cloth. When his attention slowly shifted away from the circus tent, he would find that there were many peons wandering in the nearby mountains. They were huge and had dark skin, Frankenstein monsters. They only had 1 mouth and 1 eye on their faces. They were carrying 10-meter-long wooden awls to make a fence outside the circus. Once it was completed, it would prevent any outsiders from approaching. It's more oppressive than I expected. Let's go in and take a look. Han Dong, who was filled with curiosity, walked straight to the ancient castle tent. Governor Willis hesitated for a moment and immediately followed. He had lived for thousands of years. Hundreds of years ago, he had clearly felt the level barrier that blocked him, giving him a feeling that he would never be able to surpass. To him, although he had an eternal lifespan, his potential for growth had almost been exhausted. Such a strange circus that exceeded his understanding appeared in front of him. Of course, there was danger, but it could also be an opportunity that was hard to come by in 1,000 years. Just as the 2 of them were about to approach the main entrance of the circus, a pumpkin head suddenly descended and blocked their way. Squeak, 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 densely packed black-haired rats drilled out from the ground. Each of their hair was like spikes, and their red crystal eyes gave off a very disgusting feeling. The rats gathered under the pumpkin head to form a humanoid torso in black clothes. The palms outside the sleeves were also covered with the spiky hair of the rats. Wherever the fingertips passed, the air would be torn into wisps of black smoke. Welcome to the Dark Circus. I am the ticket inspector here. Please show me the flyer you have received. As Han Dong and Governor Willis handed over the flyer in their hands, the other party directly stuffed it into the pumpkin head. The leaflet that had been stained with their fingerprints had undergone a series of strange transformations and fermentation. 2 contracts were spat out from the pumpkin head. Please read the contents of the contract carefully. After confirming that there are no mistakes, please sign your name at the bottom right corner with your blood. Only by signing the contract can you become a spectator. This is the most basic requirement before entering the arena. Whether it was Han Dong or Governor Willis, when they read the contents of the letter, their expressions turned ugly. For the second time, Governor Willis wanted to give up on visiting the circus because the content on it was very likely that he would lose his life. This was the most basic requirement. Before entering the venue, the individual would be forcibly demoted to the status of an ordinary person and watch the performance with the weakest body of an ordinary person. This restriction would only be lifted when the performance was over. Even Han Dong had to consider the risks involved. He didn't come here to seek opportunities. He only came here out of curiosity after hearing about it from Baker. If he put himself in danger because of his curiosity, it wouldn't be worth it. Just as Han Dong was considering whether to watch the performance or not, a burst of laughter suddenly came from a hidden corner in the depths of his consciousness. Although it was laughter, it seemed to be mixed with some words that he could understand. "Nicholas, when did you become so timid? You don't even dare to seize such an opportunity?" Smack! Han Dong slapped his forehead heavily. The sound of the explosion spread in the area, and even the ticket inspector was slightly surprised. It was the first time he had seen such a situation. His pumpkin head also cracked an exaggerated smile. He seemed to be interested in the young man and said a few more words. The truth seal is mainly to ensure the order of the scene during the performance and fairness between different audiences. After all, the audiences here are strong and weak. We have to try our best to let all the audiences have the same experience. In addition, the performers are also sealed. Please rest assured. Okay. Han Dong first removed the crow head, disguise, and changed back to a normal human youth. He bit his finger and signed his name at the bottom right corner of the contract, Han Dong. Buzz. Some kind of dark material directly invaded Han Dong's consciousness through the contract paper and sealed the area where the talent tree was located. Even the entrance to the abyss between the tree trunks was blocked. This kind of power can only be achieved by a superior. Even if I don't seal the truth here and go to the circus in full condition, if the other party really wants to kill me, I won't be able to escape. Interesting, let me see what the truth of the circus is. At the same time, I'll see if the current clown who replaced Pennywise in the circus is qualified. The Pumpkinhead ticket inspector looked at Han Dong with satisfaction. Congratulations, you are the 193rd audience member for this performance. The performance will start in a day, and you'll be notified before the performance starts. During this time, you are free to move around and visit the unrestricted areas of the circus. Special warning. Please do not go to the areas marked no entry. If you violate the rules and get killed by other employees, we will not be responsible. Got it. At this moment, Governor Willis also signed the contract. While being truth seal, his hover wheelchair was also confiscated and replaced with an ordinary wheelchair. The old man couldn't help but laugh at himself. They said that we could take care of each other if we formed a team in advance. Now I can't even walk. There's really no limit. It can actually seal the king's territory and all the rules of truth that I opened up. How terrifying. However, on the other hand, isn't this also a kind of opportunity? However, Han Dong didn't hear the old man sigh at all. He had already walked dozens of meters away and was about to enter the circus. Hey, wait for me. The old man, who seemed to have trouble moving, suddenly had his muscles bulging. He moved his wheelchair quickly and entered the circus with Han Dong at the right time. For some reason, Governor Willis, who had lived for thousands of years, had a strange intuition. Even if he was suppressed to the state of an ordinary person, as long as he followed this young man from the Black Tower, he might be able to increase his chances of survival. In the circus, in the depths of the passage filled with rolling black streams, there were a few strange green words. Training room. There was also a note stating that unauthorized personnel were not allowed to enter. The core group of the circus was undergoing performance training here. Suddenly, a member who shouldn't have made a mistake suddenly froze, causing the rehearsal to be interrupted. Just as everyone was about to reprimand him, a twisted and strange laughter came from his body. Ha ha ha! It seems that a very interesting audience has arrived. He seems to be the same type as me. It's really rare. I can smell the crazy laughter on him just by standing here. This performance will be more interesting than before. Chapter 1799. Truth Blockade. Han Dong's space of consciousness was almost completely covered in darkness. Even the talent tree was covered in a layer of black film, so that he could not obtain any power from it. The same went for the abyss. The truth could not receive any feedback. The related magic, abilities could not be used. However, in Han Dong's space of consciousness, there was a mysterious individual created by the faceless puzzle, similar to the Tomb Keeper. Its image was the same as Han Dong's human appearance. It often wandered around the cemetery and occasionally rested under the talent tree. Now, as Han Dong signed the contract, he was an ability that was sealed in the coffin by the darkness. However, the eye that grew between his eyebrows could not be sealed by the darkness and could see everything in the darkness. It was also because of this that Han Dong seemed quite relaxed and natural when he stepped into the circus's castle tent. What a special material. The stone wall looks like it's made of stone, but it feels like the fabric of a circus tent. Han Dong reached out to touch the wall and moved forward in the circular passage of the castle. Governor Willis also relied on the sliding of his wheelchair and moved side by side. During this period, he would often meet the circus's internal butler, an elegant gentleman with an exquisite candle floating above his head. Wherever he walked, the environment would become as clean as new, and the candles between the wall lamps would return to their original length. There was more than one butler, or there were many clones. Every 5 minutes, he would pass by a butler. When he met the butler again, Han Dong took the initiative to ask, "Excuse me, before the circus performance begins, do we have a place to rest?" The butler who was sweeping the wall put away the exquisite broom and dustpan into his body and turned around politely. The flame on the head of the candlestick transformed into the shape of a mouth. Dear audience, there are 27 hours and 41 minutes left before the performance begins. Before the performance begins, you can go to any guest area to rest. The signs at the intersection between the castles will clearly point you in the direction. Of course, if you need me to lead the way, that's fine too. You just need to collect a small tip. Tip. Just as Governor Willis was puzzled, Han Dong had already transferred his Black Tower points, and it was 200 points. After all, Han Dong knew very well that the circus had a relationship with the Black Tower and was a special organization that traveled between worlds. The tip they were referring to was definitely a universal currency. Thank you. I'll be your personal butler until the performance starts. Soon it would be mealtime. Those who arrived early would have the right to enjoy the banquet. At the same time, some circus members may also be present for dinner. Do you want to go over? Hearing that members of the circus might also join the banquet, Han Dong's interest was piqued. If he could get in touch with the main team in advance, he could also effectively assess the situations and risks that he might encounter during the performance. Sure, come with me. While following the butler, Governor Willis was shocked when he learned that Han Dong had spent 200 points to bribe the butler. He was well aware of the value and difficulty of obtaining points. As the governor, although he had endless wealth in the current world, this wealth could not be exchanged for Black Tower points. Only the sub-super world could apply to establish a currency exchange relationship with the Black Tower. Moreover, the exchange rate was quite terrifying. 200 points was already a relatively large number. Seeing that Han Dong was so generous, Willis also believed that this young man must have a strong background. Perhaps he was an elite cultivated internally by the Black Tower, or even the descendant of a senior executive. Under the butler's lead, they bypassed the long corridor. A sign painted with green fluorescent paint hung at the fork in front of them. The English word banquet hall was spelled out on it. The door that was similar to a curtain structure was opened. A huge and magnificent banquet hall was displayed in front of them. It was in the form of a buffet. At a glance, there were at least 500 different styles of dishes that could cater to various tastes. At the same time, there were also some chefs with wok and utensils embedded in their hands and feet, or with an oven stuffed in their abdomens cooking here. There were already many audience eating here. The strange thing was, most of the audience here came from the current world and should know the famous Governor Willis. But at present, very few people greeted him, and they didn't even look at him. Governor Willis, these guys don't know you. When the old man glanced at these people, his expression became a little ugly. There are many interstellar wanted people gathered here, as well as unique individuals who don't belong to our forces. In general, these guys are very special. After all, the flyer is not something that ordinary people can see. At least, no one around me can see the contents of the flyer. Just as the two were chatting, buzz, a sharp table knife suddenly flew and went straight to Governor Willis's head. When it was about to be pierced, buzz, the old Willis seemed to be unable to move, but he accurately pinched it with 2 fingers. He was not an old man, but an old monster who had lived for nearly 10,000 years and experienced countless life and death situations. Even if he was sealed by the truth, his physical skills were still at the peak of ordinary people. Sorry, my hand just slipped. Not far away, a seductive man with a foxtail quickly apologized. Governor Willis didn't say anything as he moved his wheelchair and began to eat. Han Dong was silent the entire time, as if nothing had happened. The two of them carried delicious dishes and sat in a relatively small corner to eat. Governor Willis took the initiative to start the topic again. Young man, I still don't know your name. It's not easy to address you. Nicholas. Willis Dirk Devi, the governor of Beast Ring City. He's responsible for suppressing, capturing, and eliminating these restless fellows. Many of the audience here were my main targets in the past. They might take the initiative to cause trouble later. Han Dong said calmly, "It's fine. I just need to verify something. If someone kills or stirs up trouble in the circus, how will they deal with it?" While the two of them were eating, the corner area was gradually filled with people. It wasn't that the number of diners had increased, but that a group of people had a special purpose. The killing intent in their eyes couldn't be hidden. "Mr. Nicholas, these guys are here to cause trouble for me. Why don't you keep a certain distance from me?" Han Dong swallowed a large piece of steak and replied softly after chewing for a while, "It's fine. If they accidentally implicate me, I don't mind executing them." Just as the surroundings were about to take action, boom, the door was kicked open by a certain someone. A laughter filled with sadness and joy instantly filled the entire banquet. Haha, the audience in this world isn't bad. So many people came on the first day, and they even found this place to eat. That beast tamer fellow really made a killing this time. I'm so envious. Ha! The laughter immediately attracted Han Dong's attention, but he tried his best to observe from the corner of his eye. What entered his sight was a clown with black and white makeup and a scepter in his hand. The left side of his face had white as the background and black as the expression. It was a crying face. The right side of his face had black as the background and white as the expression. It was a happy face. Behind the clown were a few troop members with distinctive characteristics. Chapter 1800. Although it was indeed possible for the circus troupe to go to the public area to eat, it was still a rare situation. They were still under a lot of pressure. No mistakes were allowed in the circus performance. Once a show was interrupted because of someone, not to mention losing their status and being kicked out of the circus, they would even bear the wrath of the leader and be dealt with as a failure. There were dozens or even hundreds of rehearsals before the performance. Every second was quite precious. The members of the troupe would usually consider takeout. Of course, they would ask the butler to help them get the food and send it to the rehearsal room. However, today, the clown used his poor condition as an excuse to suggest that everyone go to the banquet hall to eat. As he was related to many performances after discussion, the rehearsals were temporarily suspended for an hour. More importantly, this clown was completely different from his predecessor. He had a very high reputation in the troupe and was also liked by his companions. Everyone was very willing to interact with him. It could be said that he was the person with the most friends in the circus. Under his suggestion, two important members came together. The special people who were eyeing the title of the technician and the lighting technician were following behind the clown. They were currently looking around at the audience in the banquet hall. Han Dong and Governor Willis happened to be surrounded by a group of people with ill intentions, so they could hide. Is this the new clown who replaced Pennywise? It seems to have the same attribute as me. However, it's not crazy laughter, but another kind. It's better not to observe him. It's easy to resonate and be discovered. When Han Dong turned his gaze to the technician beside the clown, his heart suddenly twitched and an inexplicable sense of danger swept through his body. It would be fine if it was just a normal observation. The technician was a burly individual wearing a leather trench coat, a hat, and sunglasses. His physique and outfit were somewhat similar to the tyrant from Resident Evil. This kind of image was too common in the myriad worlds, so there was nothing to be afraid of. As Han Dong's eyes were not sealed, he could easily see through the special trench coat made of insulating material. The scene displayed in his body allowed Han Dong to recognize this person's other identity in the circus, the technician. There were all kinds of acrobatic props. For example, flying daggers, glass balls, wooden poles, and so on, all of which are stored in the body. Flying daggers are inserted in the storage holes at the waist, small glass balls are embedded in the chest, and wooden poles are directly inserted in the back or between the arms, etc. At the same time, on the surface of his body, there were a few heads that looked similar to him, and they were whispering to each other. The demonic, I could roughly understand the content of the conversation, which was about the rehearsal and the performance. These heads would leave the body in different postures during the performance, turning into number 1, number 2, number 3, and so on to perform together. There wasn't a single decent area in this technician's body. It was either stuffed full of items or stuffed with clones to maximize the use of his body. Even though the truth was sealed, it still exuded a terrifying aura. After seeing the situation of the technician, Han Dong moved his gaze to the next member. However, before the prying could begin, the demonic I was forced to close due to the blinding light. Han Dong himself quickly averted his gaze, and he was slightly shocked. This should be the lighting technician of the circus, right? His body is emitting light at all times, which can effectively block all malicious observations, and he can also conduct reverse tracking. Everyone here is indeed a genius. After confirming that his prying had not been discovered, Han Dong slowly looked through the gap between the people and observed the lighting technician again with the most conventional naked eye. His image was that of a handsome blonde uncle. However, his eyes were a kind of metal lamp tube structure, and small screws could even be seen inlaid around the eye sockets. At the same time, his palms were exposed. There were mechanical lights inlaid between his body that were covered by his clothes. The specific functions of these lights were unknown for the time being. With the arrival of the three main members of the troupe, the audience, who had wanted to attack Governor Willis, also temporarily stopped. There were also special individuals who had been selected. Even though they were sealed by the truth, they could still feel the danger from the members of the troupe. However, they had no intention of retreating. About 20 people were gathered in the corner area, pretending to eat. They surrounded the governor and Han Dong, intending to wait for the three of them to leave before making a move. Han Dong felt that the situation of being surrounded was very good. He did not want to have direct contact with the current clown at the moment. Everyone, eat and drink well. Don't mind us, the clown performed a comical dance and picked some fresh food to eat. He mainly ate internal organs and eyeballs, paired with some freshly squeezed meat and ginger drinks. However, the clown who was carrying a tray did not sit down in the center of the restaurant where there were more empty seats. Instead, he slowly walked towards the corner with the highest density of people. This scene made Han Dong feel that something was wrong, but he could only pretend that he did not know anything. He could only adapt to the situation. Sigh, I really like places with more people. Excuse me. Hey, There are 2 empty seats here. Anus, come and sit with us. The black and white clown squeezed into the seat next to Han Dong. The Anus he greeted was the blonde lighting technician, and he quickly sat next to Governor Willis. As for the service technician who was passing by, he could not squeeze in due to his large size. He could only sit alone in the outer area. For a moment, not only did the 4-person table become crowded, but the atmosphere was also a little heavy. Pa! Pa! All kinds of fresh internal organs exploded in the clown's mouth, showing a very satisfied expression. The lighting technician next door mainly ate soup and slowly sucked the soup. Halfway through the meal, while the clown's right face remained unchanged, his left face began to whisper, "Hey, only we should be able to hear this voice. Where did you 2 come from? Why are there so many people who want to kill you when you're just here for a meal?" Although the circus does not prohibit killing, I still don't want the audience to decrease in advance. If that's the case, my desire to perform will be reduced. In response to the clown's question, Han Dong chose to remain silent and let Governor Willis answer. Oh, what an honor. I didn't expect you to be the governor. It must be difficult to manage a world. I understand. After all, only special individuals can see the flyer, and most special fellows don't know their place. How about this? I'm still very interested in you. Come with me later. I guarantee that you'll be fine. How about that? Governor Willis was not a fool. In the current situation, although he was surrounded by more than 20 people, he was still confident that he could survive, not to mention that he had Han Dong's help. But if he were to follow this mysterious clown, he did not know what would happen next. Just as he was hesitating on how to answer, Han Dong used a knife and fork in his hand to form an X on the table, then wiped his mouth and signaled to Governor Willis with his eyes. The 2 of them got up and left at the same time. At this moment, the clown suddenly stretched and turned his right face to speak loudly to the surrounding crowd. Hey, do you have a grudge against these 2 fellows? The circus does not prohibit killing. Do whatever you want. Since you're here, don't suppress your desires. Chapter 1801. Han Dong was actually very clear in his heart. When the clown walked to the corner with the tray, Han Dong guessed that the other party had already targeted him. The reason was probably because of the same origin. Han Dong's crazy laughter was also restricted due to the fact that the truth was sealed. He would only be touched when he heard the other party's laughter. However, the other party's laughter was of a different type. Perhaps it was more outstanding in terms of perception. He had sensed something in advance, so he specially came to the banquet hall and quickly locked onto this special audience member who was also related to laughter. For some reason, when the current clown of the circus sat down beside him, Han Dong instinctively felt repulsed and even disgusted. When the clown's right face said these open words, it was equivalent to publicly encouraging this group of people to break out into conflict. Dozens of killing intent had already condensed on the governor. Do you have to cause trouble? Sigh. Han Dong sighed slightly and then signaled Governor Willis in the wheelchair with his eyes to get ready to fight. Although the trump card, Magic Eye, allowed Han Dong to see all the attack routes and even predict the effective space to dodge in advance. Han Dong did not intend to use it here. Once the clown and the others who were watching the battle discovered his trump card, the subsequent matters would be troublesome. Han Dong rolled up his sleeves and prepared to fight directly. In terms of fighting, he was still very confident. After all, he was a member trained by the club. At this moment, a giant sweat with a lion's mane on his face directly picked up the iron chair beside him and smashed it down heavily. Duong. The iron chair hit the front and exploded into pieces. It could be seen how powerful the blow was. However, Han Dong and Governor Willis were unharmed. The target of the iron chair was not the 2 of them, but the butler who had a metal candlestick as his head. When the iron chair hit, he suddenly appeared and blocked in front of the 2 of them. However, the butler was not injured. The smash, just now, only caused the candlestick's light to dim slightly. There was no damage to him. The butler was not angry. He only signaled Han Dong and the governor to leave quickly. Because of the mysterious butler's appearance, The surrounding audience did not dare to make any more moves. After all, the circus would still exist here for 6 more days. There would be plenty of opportunities later. At this moment, a friendly voice came from the corner. "What are you doing, housekeeper? Do you have to care about such a small matter?" The banquet hall was carefully prepared by us. If we destroy or cause chaos, the leader might be very unhappy. If the death toll here exceeds the limit, it will affect the final number of spectators. The guild leader might hold you accountable. That would be troublesome. Oh, the clown wanted to say something else. However, after thinking about it, he didn't say anything. He just watched as the butler led the two of them away. The butler's behavior today is very strange. Anus, what do you think? The lighting master replied from a very objective point of view. What the butler did was not wrong, but it is indeed strange for him to oppose you because of this matter. Even if the young man gave him a tip, there is no need to do so. There must be some secrets hidden here. Besides, you're the one who's looking for trouble, aren't you, Baggins? What's so special about this young man? The clown revealed a very surprised expression and hurriedly waved his hand. No, I just feel that there must be something special about them since they're being targeted by so many people. I want to try recruiting them as assistants. Since they don't agree, I'll take advantage of the situation to intensify the conflict. I can use the break time to watch a conflict. Perhaps it will be enlightening for our performance. At this moment, the technician sitting at the periphery suddenly spoke. That young man is a little different. I'll pay attention to him in the future. Han Dong and Willis were led to a special lounge. No other audience members were staying here. The two of you can rest here. Don't worry. Although the circus doesn't restrict the fighting and killing between the audience, it restricts the performer's actions. Before the performance, they can't attack the audience. Violators will be punished beyond their tolerance. Before the performance, Han Dong noticed the details in the words and thanked him. "Thank you for helping me out just now, Mr. Butler. Ensuring the order of the banquet hall is also one of my duties." In fact, the conversation was about done. Han Dong continued asking, "Will this bring you trouble, Mr. Butler? After all, we're just passers-by, while the clown and his group are the troupe members who have been living with you for a long time. Although we're both circus members, our work is completely different. We rarely interact with each other." Han Dong suddenly leaned forward and asked tentatively, "Mr. Butler, do you have time to stay for private chat? There are some things I hope I can ask you. I still have a lot of things to do. There will be a large number of audience members coming in soon. I have to ensure the order and cleanliness of the various areas of the circus." Ding. 1,000 points were received. However, it doesn't matter if there's a slight delay. What would you like to talk about? Han Dong crossed his fingers in front of his chest and said softly with a smirk on his face, "Let's talk about that clown. Just tell me as much as you can. I won't force you." Suddenly, the candle above the butler's head turned into a black flame. The light it emitted sealed off the area. Baggins O'Brien, the current circus clown, also known as the Sorrowful Man or the Black and White Clown. We signed a confidentiality agreement, so I can't give you much information. It's okay. Say as much as you can. Time passed day by day, especially on the last day of the circus's preparations. A large number of audience members came to the entrance. Because Han Dong gave the butler a lot of tips, the other party also deliberately hung a no-entry wooden sign on the entrance. In these 2 days, there were no clowns or other troupe members who came to cause trouble, allowing Han Dong to have sufficient rest and relaxation. In addition to resting, Han Dong also tried to use the true devil eye to decipher the truth seal that restricted his body. At present, he had found a way to decipher it. However, once the seal was lifted, the circus would immediately discover it. He secretly kept this trick for emergencies. On the 4th day of the circus's arrival on the planet, the show would officially begin at noon today. The butler who kept an eye on the candlesticks personally came to inform the two of them 3 hours in advance. At the same time, he also brought a sumptuous breakfast from the banquet hall. It was obvious that he had given enough tips. Han Dong was meditating. Governor Willis had just finished an important process and was sweating profusely. He spent a full 30 hours on technological forging with guaranteed rest. He used a wheelchair to create an exoskeleton armor, leg, which made his movements extremely agile. He must be an old monster who had lived for thousands of years. These technologies were engraved in his life experience. It seems that you are all ready. I suggest that you enter early. If you choose a good position, the subsequent performances will be much safer. Please lead the way. Chapter 1802. The capacity of the circus's main venue, 1,000 except for open-air performances or some special circumstances. The fixed number of people would not change. Therefore, with a total of 1,000 spectators entering, the circus no longer received outsiders. Even if someone came to the circus with a flyer, they would be completely lost in the black fog and would never be able to find the exact location of the circus. The only passage to the main venue had been opened between the castles, allowing up to 2 hours in advance to enter. The performance would officially begin at noon. No one knew what the specific content was. When the announcement spread to every corner of the castle, the 1,000 spectators had already begun to search for the secret designated passage. Only Han Dong didn't panic at all. As long as the butler led the way, they would definitely be able to reach the venue on time. After a while, a narrow passage hidden in the wall was pointed out by the butler. Han Dong could see it with his magic eye, but if he only observed it with his naked eye, it would be extremely difficult to discover it even if he was very careful. Even with Han Dong's thin and weak body, he could barely crawl in the narrow passage. The color of the internal structure and the arrangement of the bricks were almost integrated with the nearby walls, making it easy to miss. Butler, are you sure the audience can find this passage? Do you still remember that I said that there would be benefits to arriving early? It's not easy to reach the venue just by leaving early. The search of this only passage is also one of the difficulties. As time goes by, the passage will gradually expand and become more and more conspicuous. The signboard between the castles will also gradually increase. 10 minutes before the start of the performance, you can reach the venue even if you close your eyes and walk around, so there's no need to worry about the final attendance. I see. If we enter the venue, is there anything we need to pay attention to when choosing a seat? Try to choose the inconspicuous back seats on the second floor to reduce the probability of being selected during the performance. This will greatly increase your probability of survival. Finally, I advise you to avoid conflict with Baggins as much as possible. After all, this is a circus unless... At this point, the butler paused for a moment. The flame on the candlestick dimmed significantly before he spoke in a low voice. That's right. He lowered his voice and said, "Unless you won't be one of us." Yes. Han Dong nodded and didn't give a clear reply. Good luck, Mr. Nicholas. I have no right to interfere during the performance. Please be careful. I hope you can enjoy this carefully prepared performance by our circus and leave safely in the end. Crawling along the narrow passageway into the depths. Just as the butler had said, as time passed, the passage was gradually expanding, and it would become quite obvious in the end. When he stepped into the main hall, it was still empty. Is this the main venue? Looks like we're the first to arrive. The 2-story ring-shaped auditorium was surrounded by a huge performance stage. The circular stage, shrouded in darkness, had not been set up with any props. It was empty and silent, like a huge stage for a private performance. When Han Dong stared at the stage, he actually had a desire to perform on stage, and as time passed, this desire was slowly expanding. When he realized that something was wrong, Han Dong immediately used the characteristics of the demon eye to block the screen's vision. When the stage disappeared from view, the desire to perform was immediately suppressed to the minimum, and there was almost no effect. This feeling should be caused by the nature of the stage itself. If they had to stay here for 3 days, many people would not be able to resist the urge to perform. I estimate that before the last day, the main venue will become a mess. Governor Willis also stared at the stage indifferently. It was not until Han Dong patted him on the shoulder that he pulled his consciousness back. Since there was enough time, he first tried to observe the main venue. First, there was the problem of the number of audience seats. According to the huge scale of the main venue, it could accommodate more than 1,000 people. However, the circus seemed to have considered the comfort of each audience and designed all the audience seats into open private rooms. The area occupied by a private room could fit about 3 to 4 normal seats. This was why the capacity was only 1,000 people. The compartment had a multi-functional sofa with adjustable tilt. There were storage compartments on both sides of the armrests. One side stored drinks, and the other side stored various snacks. The sofa cushions could be removed and turned into a toilet bowl structure. When they needed to solve their physiological problems, they could also be immersed in the circus's performance. There were even various waiters walking around the venue during the performance. They could make various requests, such as ordering a bowl of fried rice, foot massage, full body massage, and even more advanced services. After the observation, at the same time, some audience members found the entrance and came here. Han Dong no longer wandered around. Following the butler's reminder, he walked down the stairs to the second floor of the auditorium. Just as he was about to find the most inconspicuous seat, a strange feeling swept through Han Dong's consciousness. His whole head felt like it was filled with balloons. He could even hear the buzzing sound of the balloons rubbing against each other. Pah! The sudden explosion stunned Han Dong. Of course, only he could hear this sound. It was a unique sound that came from the depths of his consciousness. Hee, Nicholas, don't tell me you want to sit in that corner seat. When did you become a coward? Or are you afraid of that black and white funny kid? An extremely familiar voice sounded. Only Han Dong could hear it. The magic eye removed the visual barrier on the stage. His head slowly turned to the silent, open dark stage. As red balloons floated out, an old acquaintance that Han Dong couldn't be more familiar with appeared. Originally from the dark circus, Pennywise the clown. The stimulation of consciousness brought about by revisiting an old place. It activated the subconscious buried in the depths of Han Dong's brain. It could even be described as an explosion. It had a certain impact on Han Dong, the main consciousness. After all, this was an important scene in Pennywise's life. He had learned a lot in the circus. He had even learned the true nature of clown. It could even be said that the crazy laughter system that Han Dong had formed could not be separated from this circus. Han Dong stared at the clown on the stage and frowned slightly. The consciousness influence this time is so strong that it almost appears as a physical entity in my eyes. It seems that the circus is really an important place for Pennywise to grow. Pennywise had already walked to the edge of the stage and pointed to the nearest seat. The circus's performance has been optimized and designed for thousands of years. The performers are all top talents and have gone through hundreds of rehearsals. What they present is not just a simple performance, but also a kind of pursuit and interpretation of the extreme. Such a wonderful performance naturally has to be in the first row. Besides, I can't stand that black and white guy. How about we work together to pull him off the stage? Pennywise, who had a crazy smile on his face, took the initiative to make a polite invitation gesture to Han Dong. Chapter 1803. Pennywise had died long ago in Dry Town. Only Han Dong could sense the clown that appeared on the stage. It was a lingering thought derived from his consciousness. In other words, it was a product of his consciousness when he integrated the mad laughter attribute. It was a bit similar to a secondary personality, but not to the extent of a personality. It usually did not affect Han Dong at all. Only when he used the mad laughter attribute on a large scale, or when he encountered a special situation like the one in front of him, these lingering thoughts in the depths of his consciousness could condense into a whole. It formed the image of Pennywise and talked to Han Dong. In fact, it was just Han Dong's self-talk in his consciousness. Governor Willis, go to the second floor and find the safest seat. I have other ideas. Do you want to? Governor Willis had already noticed that Han Dong had been staring at the front row for a long time. He was on a good state and could guess what was going on. That's right. It's not easy to get here. I still want to watch the show seriously. Okay, see you in 3 days. Governor Willis would not bite the bullet and choose the front row like Han Dong. He knew very well that the young man in front of him had other ideas and had the strength to realize them. It was better for him to be conservative. There were also other audience members entering the venue. Those who could come to the main venue so early were not simple characters. They had also secretly inquired about some information and knew that going to the second floor to choose a seat was the wisest choice. However, when they chose their seats on the second floor, they noticed that a young man who came to the main venue earlier than them actually walked to the front of the first floor alone. Without any hesitation, he sat in the first row of seats. "Is this guy here to die?" A strong audience member with a dinosaur's back whispered. An audience member wearing an owl mask next to him had a different opinion. "To be able to arrive here earlier than us, he must be a very capable guy. It doesn't seem like he's here to die. It's more like a challenge to the circus. There should be a good show to watch." In the deepest part of the circus, it was also the origin area of the eternal darkness. All the darkness came from this passage. Not many people could resist the darkness here under the truth seal. However, there was a burst of fire at the entrance of the passage. It seemed weak, but it could expel the darkness. The person who came was the butler, who had a candlestick as his head. It seemed that this was not his first time here. He adjusted the candle's burning efficiency to the maximum and walked steadily into the depths. When he reached out and pushed open the iron door at the end, buzz, the darkness dissipated. The interior was actually an ordinary room without any dark elements, similar to a modern apartment. Sizzle. The sound of running water came from the bathroom, and, at the same time, they could vaguely hear someone humming. The housekeeper came to the bathroom door respectfully. Unknowingly, a clean bath towel was hanging on his arm. Not long after, a long-haired man with a height of 2 meters slowly walked out of the bathroom. Overall, he looked like an ordinary human, and there was nothing special about him. After wrapping himself in the towel handed over by the butler, he asked softly, "How's the situation at the main venue?" "Everything is normal. However, there's a very special audience this time." He was not a native of this world, but came from the Black Tower. The individuals who can find out about us in the Black Tower either have a strong background or a deep connection with the Darknet. This kind of thing isn't very special, right? The butler continued methodically. "That's right. The most important thing is that I smell the scent of clown from him." "Oh, Baggins's people?" "No, I mean the previous generation of clown." For a moment, the man's expression became solemn. "Continue." "Captain, don't be nervous. After these few days of contact, we can basically confirm one thing. He is not Pennywise or a mutant affected by the clown virus. I speculate that Pennywise has been killed by this person, and through some means, he fused with the characteristics of clown." "Interesting. Have you found out about this person's information?" "The Black Tower has classified his information as highly confidential, and it is impossible to find out." Dong. It was as if a stone had been thrown into a calm lake, causing ripples to spread across the entire lake. For this person, his peaceful and ordinary daily life seemed to have become interesting. As time went by, more and more audience members arrived at the scene, but still, no one chose to sit in the front row. Han Dong, on the other hand, looked like he was enjoying himself. He adjusted the recliner to a 45 degrees angle, placed a large bucket of popcorn on one side, and a liter of carbonated soda on the other. He did not feel threatened at all. There were only 10 minutes left. Since most of the seats had been chosen, the audience members who arrived at the scene only had the front row to choose from. When they passed by Han Dong's cubicle, their expressions were more or less nervous. Is it finally going to start? Time is up. An indescribable pressure forced the restless crowd to stop, and the crowd was covered in silence. Layers of black air seeped out from the stage. The audience sitting in the front row could clearly feel the black air seeping through their calves. It was like being immersed in an ice cave, and even the lower half of their body lost feeling. Ha! A vertical white light shone in the middle of the stage. A long-haired man wrapped in a black down cloak appeared in the light, holding a black gemstone cane. He was wearing a shirt, vest, trousers, and shiny leather shoes. In front of him was a luxurious chest chain made of special material. When he appeared, he bowed in 4 different directions. Welcome to the Dark Circus. I am the founder and leader of the circus. You can call me. Next, I will explain the discipline of the venue. This will be closely related to the upcoming performance and the lives of everyone present. Please listen carefully. 1. Noise is strictly prohibited. Once you interfere with the performance, you will be executed. 2. Watch the entire performance. During the 3-day performance, you are not allowed to look away from the stage. Our lighting engineer will monitor each of your conditions throughout the entire process. Once you look away for more than 5 seconds, the light will shine on your body. You will be sentenced to capital punishment through a lottery. This is also a kind of performance. If you want to take the initiative to play, we also encourage you. At this point, another beam of light shone down on a turntable filled with different capital punishment. Some of the capital punishments made one's scalp tingle. 3. Any audience members who are selected, or meet certain conditions to be on stage, please cooperate. If there is any struggle, escape, or attempt to muddle through, you will be executed immediately. Please follow the above 3 requirements. Please don't be too nervous. We only have to set these harsh rules for the smooth performance. Please rest assured that the circus will bring you an extreme performance that surpasses the limits of your visual senses. Chapter 1804. Sure enough, there is a requirement of forced viewing. Otherwise, the function of the private room would not be so comprehensive. On the surface, it seems to be a punishment mechanism for violations, but in fact, there is a deeper meaning. The stage will continue to convey the desire to perform to the audience. In accordance with the rules, the 3 days of performance will continue to accumulate the desire to perform. I estimate that only a small number of audience members who are sitting on the 2nd floor and whose spirits are more prominent will be able to survive. Being continuously instilled with the desire to perform like this, most people will inevitably take the initiative to go on stage in the later stages of the performance. Even if you want to suppress your desire, your body will not be able to hold on, and you may explode and die. Since Han Dong was sitting in the 1st row, he never had the intention to look away. He didn't care about the accumulation of the desire to perform. He even had a smile on his face, as if he was looking forward to the upcoming circus performance. He also didn't use his magic eyes to spy on the leader. Such impolite behavior could lead to a fatal disaster. At this moment, the leader's loud voice spread to every corner of the venue. First, the dark dance troupe will bring the opening performance. As soon as he finished speaking, the leader knocked on the ground with his cane. Dong! A circle of ripples spread out from the strike of the cane. The black fog on the stage seemed to be activated and began to breathe some kind of life. The lights gathered on the leader changed to a dim light that covered the entire stage. The leader himself also disappeared when the lights dispersed. Gradually, graceful women slowly emerged from the black fog. With a movement that transcended the physical body and ignored the limitations of joints, they performed a flawless, flexible dance. Each dancer was like a liquid. They could be integrated with the black fog flowing on the stage at any time. They could also be separated for individual performances. They could also perform a perfect combination between different dancers. Every movement was just right. There was no mistake at all. Not bad. Han Dong was also quickly brought into the mood that the dance wanted to convey. This kind of interpretation of darkness even allowed him to gain a certain amount of insight about dark magic. If this kind of dancer was compared to the energy flowing in the body, it could build a more efficient energy flow framework, greatly increasing the casting speed. At the end of the performance, the bright lights controlled by the lighting engineer instantly covered the stage. The darkness released by the group leader was completely dispelled, leaving behind only the dancers in black dance outfits. The dancers seemed to be different in appearance and height, but they were a whole. At the end of the performance, their bodies were pressed against each other. The brain and torso were completely disassembled and fused into the main body, but the limbs themselves were preserved. The last dancer, Left on the stage was a tall woman who looked like a thousand hands guanine. All of the gathered limbs were arranged in order of length behind him. Even with a normal person's aesthetic standards, it did not look out of place at all. Whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, the audience burst into applause, expressing their recognition of the opening dance. As the lights slowly gathered around her, her limbs, which resembled the thousand-hand guanine, also began to fold inward and converge into one body. She also made a bowing motion. However, she had no intention of leaving. A soft, soul-stirring voice spread throughout the hall. "Is there anyone who would like to dance with me on the stage? If you can cooperate, I, Aaliyah, will personally give you a reward." Main member of the circus, dancer, Aaliyah, whether it was her appearance, figure, or voice, she was definitely among the top in the aesthetic category, not to mention her flexible body, which would add a lot of extra points. However, in the face of this beauty's invitation, the audience was indifferent. Han Dong did not make a move for the time being. After all, he wasn't interested in this dancer. Moreover, it was best if someone went on stage first so that Han Dong could more accurately assess the risks of the circus. Aaliyah said with a regretful expression, "What an apathetic audience. Since no one took the initiative to go on stage, I'll have to pick someone who looks better at dancing." At this moment, the advantage of sitting at the back of the second floor was displayed. Aaliyah's gaze was basically on the front row of the first floor. If she couldn't find a suitable one, she would search further away. "You, come on up." Aaliyah pointed to a seat slightly to the left of Han Dong. "First floor, second row, seat 75. According to the circus's performance rules, once an individual was selected, they had to cooperate with the performance. A handsome male audience member with long legs and antlers was invited to the stage. Regardless of height or appearance, he was very compatible with Aaliyah. This was also the reason why Han Dong was confident that he would not be selected. Those who could come to the circus were definitely relatively special and had their own individual abilities. Moreover, with his figure, he usually dabbled in dancing. When he stepped on stage, the desire to perform accumulated in his brain was released, and he quickly entered the zone. He took the initiative to hold Aaliyah's hand. With a low and elegant melody, the dance began. Since the audience was invited to perform on stage, the difficulty was naturally far lower than the opening dance. The man also used his dancing skills to complete every movement. But as time went on, the rhythm of the dance began to slowly speed up. Oh no! The man suddenly failed to keep up with the movement, but relying on his adaptability, he quickly followed up with the next movement. The overall dance wasn't affected much, but Aaliyah's eyes changed. A part of the limb that was retracted on her back suddenly grew out and quickly grabbed the man's right hand. Swish! A finger was forcibly pulled out and thrown into the audience area. Under the truth seal situation, the audience's physique was equivalent to that of ordinary people. The pain of having a finger pulled out was quite intense. The brain stimulation caused by the intense pain and the continuous bleeding. This seriously affected the man's dance rhythm and caused him to make multiple mistakes. In the blink of an eye, all 5 fingers on his right hand were pulled out and 3 fingers on his left hand were pulled out. Survival instinct accelerated the secretion of adrenaline, forcing the man to temporarily suppress the pain and keep up with the dance. Aaliyah said with a smile, "That's right. Don't make any more mistakes. If you continue to make mistakes, I'll start cutting your body after I pull out all your fingers." As soon as she finished speaking, the rhythm of the dance sped up again, and there were even some additional difficult movements. 2 minutes passed, fingers and toes were scattered under the stage. Various parts of the body were also cut into different pieces of meat, and some were even thrown into some audience compartments. The service staff under the stage immediately began to clean up. Aaliyah, who was bathed in blood, enjoyed it very much and even wanted to ask 2 people to come up and dance. However, considering that there were still opportunities to perform later and that the opening dance shouldn't take too much time, she bowed and left the stage in a black mist. This kind of interaction made the audience gasp. Just as the next program was about to start, click, The spotlight suddenly shone on a member of the audience in the front row on the second floor. Lighting engineer Anus's voice sounded, "Mr. Jaffrin, your vision left the stage for more than 5 seconds just now. Just in time before the next performance starts. You will complete a lucky draw to liven up the atmosphere." The middle-aged man with a rhinoceros horn on his forehead was shocked and quickly explained. "Blood just happened to splash into my eyes, and I accidentally looked away while washing my eyes." "Oh? Are you going to violate the circus's rules? If you don't go on stage in 10 seconds, I'll execute you." Chapter 1805. Pretty good. Han Dong smiled in satisfaction when he saw that someone had won the prize. He wasn't rejoicing, but he wanted to see the circus's lottery system. Han Dong had roughly guessed that someone would look away for more than 5 seconds during the dance. Due to the visual impact of the dance and the death of the audience, it would greatly attract attention. The rules announced by the captain before the start of the show might be completely forgotten in a short period of time. Coincidentally, this person's eyes were stained with blood. He habitually wiped his eyeballs and looked away for 5 seconds. This poor guy was called Jaffrin. He still had rhinoceros blood flowing in his body. He belonged to the purest rhinoceros race in the current world. With his innate strong physique and bloodline advantage, he was arrogant and despotic. He even established an organization's stronghold on a planet that escaped the control of the interstellar government. However, faced with the threat of a lighting engineer, he was completely mute and didn't dare to resist. He stepped onto the stage in 10 seconds. He came to the lottery roulette that was illuminated by the spotlight alone. The roulette was 10 meters in diameter and was divided into 100 different reward areas. Some of the areas were directly marked with the names of the capital punishment, such as Hellstorm, Barrelman, Highfall, and Beastwalker. There was also a portion of the area marked ? The last 110 areas were green, which seemed to mean a safe zone. The lighting engineer's voice reached Jaffrin's brain through the light. "Spin the roulette with all your strength. Don't think about playing any tricks. Once I find out, I'll execute you immediately, and I won't let you die immediately." His ability was sealed, so even if Jaffrin wanted to play tricks, he couldn't do it. He could only hope that his luck would be better. When he spun the roulette, the lottery machine also emitted joyful music and lights. Due to the low friction resistance, the roulette spun at a high speed for a long time. Even Jaffrin was sweating profusely while waiting, and his legs were trembling. The entire audience was attracted by the roulette. They wanted to know what the final result of the roulette would be and didn't care about Jaffrin's life at all. About 5 minutes later, the roulette finally showed signs of stopping. Just as it was about to stop, a green area was slowly turning. Jaffrin seemed to have seen the opportunity of life, and his entire body tensed up. He hoped that the needle would stop on this area. In the end, it slid past and landed on the next column, ? Just as Jaffrin showed a disappointed expression, as though he wanted to smash someone, the lighting engineer's voice sounded. "You're lucky, aren't you? He actually skipped the death zone. Green is for those unlucky fellows. Once selected, they'll be executed." "What?" Jaffrin was shocked, and his mentality underwent an earth-shattering change. "Do you think this is a safe zone? Do you think you can escape punishment after making a mistake? This kind of management mechanism doesn't exist in the circus. You're lucky. If it's a random punishment, there's a chance that you'll get a reduced sentence. Let's see how lucky you are." "Where?" "It's right behind the question mark on the needle. It's better for you to see for yourself the things that will determine your fate." With trembling hands, Jaffrin removed the question mark cardboard behind the pointer. When he flipped the cardboard over, a large screen projection frame appeared above the stage, showing the words on it to the audience. "Enter the main character." "What do you mean?" Jaffrin didn't quite understand. These words had nothing to do with punishment at all. "Congratulations. You've actually drawn such an interesting extra item." Simply explained, under normal circumstances, the punishment is carried out by the ordinary staff. Enter the main character. The meaning is very simple. Your punishment will be carried out by the members of the troupe. Come on, spin it again. Maybe you can still draw a question mark. On the basis of the original punishment, add some extra items, and the final program will become even more exciting. For a moment, the atmosphere at the scene was stirred up. Jaffrin was on the verge of collapse, but he could only continue spinning. Now, he only had one thought in his mind, as long as he could live. Tick, 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 tick. The wheel lights flashed endlessly, and cheerful music echoed in his ears like a death knell. In the end, the pointer hovered in the normal punishment column, corresponding to fatal throwing knife. This obviously wasn't a good name. Before Jaffrin could react, two servants appeared from the darkness and completely restrained him. In terms of physique, the circus servants with black metal masks were bigger than Jaffrin, the rhinoceros. Soon, he was fixed on a human turntable. Fatal throwing knife is one of the most common punishment items. The executor will wear an eye mask and throw knives at the high speed, rotating punisher with vision closed. There are a total of 10 knives. This kind of extremely dangerous performance is often only willing to take the risk between two actors who trust each other. Today, our main character, Clown Baggins, will personally carry it out. Good luck, Mr. Jaffrin. After that, a thin figure of ordinary height landed in the center of the stage. The lights immediately fell on his body, and the iconic black and white makeup that represented joy and sadness was displayed. The clown first bowed in all directions. When he faced Han Dong's position, he revealed a devilish smile, and his black and white eyes met with Han Dong's. You're actually sitting in the first row? How interesting. With such a wonderful performance, of course I have to sit in the front row. Han Dong responded with a smile. A member of the troupe actually took the initiative to communicate with an audience member. Many of the audience members looked at Han Dong's private room in surprise, but they immediately realized the 5-second punishment and quickly looked away. The clown also stood up straight and returned to his original work. Looking at Jaffrin, who was tied to the turntable, he smiled and comforted him. Don't be nervous, my knife skills are still very accurate. As long as there are no abnormalities, you'll be fine. As soon as he finished speaking, a few thin needles appeared between the black and white clown's fingers. Without using a cloth, he directly inserted the dense thin needles into the eyeballs. The blood that flowed out from the eye sockets was black and white, which matched the makeup. This action shocked everyone present, and their attention was drawn to it. Han Dong below the stage also stared at the clown with full attention, taking the opportunity to see the clown's ability. Let's begin. The circus servant turned the turntable with all his strength, and Jaffrin, who was tied to it, spun at a high speed of 10 revolutions per second. Buzz. Time flashed. 10 throwing knives appeared on different parts of the clown's body. Some were held between his fingers. Some were held between his toes. And one was held between his teeth. He didn't throw them one by one. Instead, he threw all of them together with the clown's jump and turn. Whoosh! When the clown landed, he even did a very beautiful ending movement and maintained a smile the entire time. When the turntable slowly came to a stop, Jaffrin was already dead. At the same time, he still had a pitiful expression on his face. His head, neck, heart, lungs, and other vital parts were all hit without any deviation. The black and white clown had already pulled out the thin needles from his eyes. Even though his eyeballs were still bleeding, he still stared at the turntable. Nice, no deviation at all. Mr. Jaffrin, happy working with you. The black and white clown skipped forward, grabbed the corpse's hand, which was gradually turning cold, and raised it in the air to bid farewell to the audience. Chapter 1806. After watching the lucky draw, Han Dong was expressionless and even a little disappointed. Pure physical skills without using any abilities. Did you do this on purpose? So that I wouldn't be able to observe your abilities in advance. Han Dong took out a bag of potato chips and ate them while staring at the clown who was about to leave the stage. He didn't care much. After all, he had already obtained a lot of useful information from the butler. Although the clown's ability was still a mystery, it would naturally be revealed when the time came. The clown, Baggins, had no intention of staying. He spat out a smoke bomb from his mouth. When the smoke exploded, the black and white ribbons flew up, and the clown disappeared as well. He disappeared from the stage together with Jaffrin's corpse, which had been pierced by a flying knife. When the group leader appeared again as the host, the lights were turned off. Only a few people with innate night vision and special existences like Han Dong could see the situation on the stage clearly. The cane hit the ground, and a magic light appeared at the tip of the cane. The magic was transmitted to the dark matter in the stage through the cane, and the inorganic matter was constructed, forming a sinister mansion in the stage. The mansion almost filled the stage, and some of the internal passageways were extremely complicated. There were as many as 100 individual rooms, and there were also many secret passages. It was like a three-dimensional maze. At this moment, the dim lights lit up again, and the French-style mansion was enveloped by layers of energy. The next performance will be performed by our circus's professional actor, Matthew, with 10 live audience members to perform the stage play, Fright Night. The audience members who complete the performance will receive a reward from the circus. Similarly, we will use the active registration method first. If there are not enough people, I will personally choose those audience members who feel that they are very talented in performance. Please come on stage. If this performance was held at the opening ceremony, perhaps someone would sign up. But after seeing the tragic state of the previous 2 audience members, coupled with such a strange mansion and a title like Fright Night, no one dared to sign up. No one wanted to die. Moreover, the so-called actor mentioned by the group leader did not appear. He must be as terrifying as the dancer and clown from before. Seeing that no one took the initiative to participate, the group leader still maintained his smile. It seems that everyone has their concerns. I can understand this. I'll randomly choose the audience members who are more suitable for this stage play. Just as the leader was about to call the roll, someone below the stage suddenly raised his hand. The lighting technician also shone the spotlight over at once, corresponding to the first seat in the first row on the first floor. Discussions immediately broke out at the scene. Isn't this the guy who was talking to the clown earlier? You actually dare to take the initiative to participate in such a dangerous program. You're really not afraid of death. I remember that he didn't arrive later. He even arrived earlier than us. Yet, he chose to sit in the first row. Let's see how confident he is. Although everyone was discussing, their eyes were fixed on the stage at all times for fear of violating the rules. The person who raised his hand was Han Dong. In fact, he did not want to take the initiative to go on stage. Otherwise, he would have raised his hand a long time ago. It was as if he had suddenly noticed some special detail and decided to participate in this play at the last minute. Finally, there's a volunteer. Please come on stage. If there aren't any other volunteers, I'll choose a suitable audience based on the background and characters of the play. Under the group leader selection, audience members of different ages were selected to go on stage. Of course, everyone was limited by the truth, and the strength they displayed was not much different. It was just the difference between basic skills and natural genes. The 9 of you are forced to go on stage. Your identities in the play will be determined by me. As for Mr. Nicholas, because he took the initiative to go on stage, he has the opportunity to choose his identity. Let me remind you that each identity comes with a special item that will be of special use during the play. Of course, it may also be of no use at all. The group leader spread out the 10 cards in his hand. They corresponded to each other: frowny face, eldest daughter, Miss Rice; second daughter, Miss Moose; playful young Master Tom; old butler; scheming maid; visiting Baron Holly; head chef; nanny; cunning Mr. Worthcat; loyal Sam Dog. The story summary is as follows. The Macmillan mansion stood on a low mountain somewhere. On a snowy night, the honest Sam kept barking at the mansion. Helpless, he could only be locked in the kennel outside the house by the old butler. At this time, a carriage came out of the wind and snow. It was Baron Holly, who had traveled with the owner of the mansion a few days ago. The Baron's eyes were not looking good. He seemed to have found something dangerous and wanted to report to the Macmillan family. What he didn't know was that he was already one step too late. Please make your identity choice. Mr. Nicholas? That's right, once you choose your identity, you must take the role seriously. Your performance will be watched by the circus and the audience. If you complete the performance alive, but your performance is insufficient, you will still be punished. Han Dong made an okay gesture and looked at the 10 character cards in front of him. At this point, Han Dong had already noticed a detail. Although there were plenty of characters corresponding to the cards, there was no master character. In fact, it could be speculated that the person playing the owner of this mansion should be a professional actor in the circus, Matthew. The problem was most likely with this master. According to the description of the plot, the character Baron Holly seemed to have important information. If other audience members were to choose, they would rush to choose the Baron. But Han Dong's choice was Loyal Sam Dog. I choose this. The card Han Dong chose was also displayed on the huge screen in the sky. The audience was quite puzzled. Why didn't he choose the Baron, but a dog with such a good opportunity in front of him? But the leader's eyes changed slightly. After staring at Han Dong, he slowly turned to the other audience members. According to their age and image, they were assigned the corresponding character card. In 1 minute, you will be transmitted to the corresponding starting position of your respective characters, and the unique props will be placed there. At that time, stage play, Fright Night, will officially begin. Not long after, clouds of black fog wrapped everyone. In the next second, Han Dong had appeared in the kennel behind the mansion. Because Count had been his secondary consciousness for a long time, Han Dong still had a deep understanding of the creature, dog, and quickly immersed himself in it. At the same time, a strange thing was happening at the gate of the mansion. The leader, who was in charge of explaining the rules of the stage play, had turned into another person under the cover of darkness. A person with eyes, nose, mouth, and ears. Even his neck, wrist, and other joints had obvious stitches. It was as if every part of his body had been stitched up. The leader just now was his perfect disguise. This person was the professional actor, Matthew of the circus, one of the main troops. After he made a shoe gesture to the audience, he turned around and jumped into the empty room on the second floor of the mansion. His personal image immediately changed, and he became one of the 10 characters just now. At the same time, the huge screen covering the circus was also divided into 11 windows, showing everyone's state in real time from a first-person and third-person perspective. Chapter 1807. In addition to announcing the opening of the show, the real leader had been staying in the lounge to monitor the situation in the main venue. The butler with the candlestick as his head also followed him throughout the whole process. When a stage play was completed and the audience chose their identities, the leader asked softly, "Butler, do you have any thoughts?" Fright Night is a stage play with high difficulty and a high mortality rate. There is a high probability that Matthew will kill them in the end. However, there have been survivors before. This Mr. Han should have seen through something before he took the initiative to participate. I can't estimate how much he has seen through. I can only say that the choice of dog shows that he has speculated some secrets of the stage play, but to fully understand it, it will depend on the subsequent performance. The leader shook his finger. No, this guy should have seen through it. He has a strong acting talent, or rather, he is an actor himself. In terms of acting skills, he may be comparable to Matthew. However, the truth is closed, so he can't fully show his side as an actor. This stage play will be very interesting. The butler was also very surprised. He didn't expect the leader's evaluation to be so high. This kind of evaluation was rare, even for the circus staff. There seemed to be no direct contact between the two. If there was any contact, it was only when the leader spread out the black fog during the opening ceremony, and he seemed to have an indirect contact with Han Dong. At this moment, the butler suddenly noticed a special event happening in the kennel. The candlelight on his head turned white to express his surprise. What is this guy doing? The wind and snow were mixed. There were even hailstones falling and hitting the kennel in the backyard. According to the settings of the stage play, this dog named Sam was a pure-blooded Caucasian dog. Its huge physique also corresponded to a large kennel that could accommodate 2 people. Han Dong, as the actor of Sam, was doing something beyond common sense in the kennel. Even at the beginning of the stage play, he attracted the attention of almost all the audience. Is this guy crazy? The audience gave the same evaluation. Even Governor Willis, who came to the circus with Han Dong, was completely stunned. He couldn't believe that the young man he knew had such a crazy side. In the kennel, in addition to the sound of hailstones falling, there was also the sound of bones, metal, and flesh. Whoosh! A pool of blood splattered outside the kennel door. Les slowly zoomed into the dark interior of the kennel. He saw a young man with red eyes that were covered in blood vessels performing self-surgery. The iron bowl in the kennel, torn into a sawtooth structure, was used as a scalpel. The details of the surgery were as follows. 1. First, cut off the knees and voluntarily give up the right to stand on both legs. 2. Connect the chain in the kennel to the spine to achieve the effect of lengthening the spine. The extended spine will be the tail. 3. Cut the corner of the mouth completely to the earlobe so that the chin can be opened and closed at about 90 degrees. They even grinded their teeth to ensure that their teeth could easily bite through hard objects. 4. With the same spike collar as counts, this step doesn't seem to be considered surgery. That was the entire procedure of the surgery. It seemed complicated, but Han Dong completed it in 3 minutes. Not only did he not feel any pain, but he also showed an extremely crazy expression. Since faceless ability was sealed, Han Dong could not carry out automatic camouflage, so he changed it to manual camouflage. Through surgery, he changed himself into a dog. In Han Dong's view, if he wanted to act well, he must have a good basic image. Only in this way could he better immerse himself in the role. In addition, the special prop to play the role of loyal Sam Dog was the collar worn around the neck. Effect: it can withstand one dangerous attack. It's quite simple, but it has a very useful effect. It's equivalent to being able to avoid death once. For an ordinary person's body, once attacked, broken legs or heavy bleeding is basically a dead end. However, this stage play is a bit strange. Although the prologue plot is given, there is no clear main plot. If we speculate from the prologue plot, there will be a murder in the mansion tonight. As a watchdog, my main duty is naturally to find the murderer. It will be best if I can kill him. Let's go to the mansion first. Staying here is a dead end. The kennel was made of iron plates, and the entrance was completely sealed and locked by several chains. Although Han Dong could break the chains, it would inevitably consume a lot of physical strength and may even disturb the terrifying existence in the mansion. Han Dong was still very experienced in this kind of stage play. If he wanted to confront the behind-the-scenes murderer, he must know the truth and find an entry point to survive. When the operation was completed, Han Dong had already begun to dig holes. With the experience imparted to him by the Earl and his perfect immersion, Han Dong's digging speed was extremely fast. About 5 minutes passed. The butler, wrapped in a cotton-padded coat, came to the kennel in the backyard, holding a steaming meal in his hand. It seemed that he felt sorry for keeping Sam in the kennel in this kind of weather, so he specially brought some food. However, there was nothing in the kennel, only some traces of digging. The originally kind butler's face changed. Stitches that did not belong to the butler appeared on his face. Obviously, he was not the real butler, but an actor in disguise. He whispered, "This person is a bit different." In the case of knowing the prequel plot, he did not choose the Baron, but chose the dog card. Fright Night has been performed in the circus a total of 9 times. 3 times, the actors who played the dog survived. Although 2 of them were executed because of their poor performance, it also seriously affected my performance. This time, I have to get rid of the dog in advance. Otherwise, it may disrupt my slaughtering plan for the whole night. Actor Matthew could easily disguise himself as anyone. With the complex structure of the building, which was like a 3-dimensional maze, he could easily approach any actor in the audience. But this was not the most terrifying thing about him. Since the dog is gone for the time being, I should go back and contact the others. The sooner I finish, the sooner I can rest. Just as Matthew, disguised as the butler, walked back to the front door of the mansion, his keen eyes suddenly caught something, and he quickly looked up. He saw a terrifying beast-like shadow, dragging a spine-shaped tail, crawling on the second floor of the mansion in a deformed posture. When Matthew saw the beast, it also looked at him. It was completely cracked, and white gas was constantly coming out of its bloody mouth. The lines in Matthew's body had begun to move, locking onto the monster in the night and preparing to attack. The shadow monster suddenly looked away and quickly crawled into the partition on the side. It seemed to have caught Matthew's intention to attack. A strange expression appeared on Matthew's face, and even made him remove the disguise of the butler. The suture lines jumped on his face. The shadow just now? Is it a dog? How did this guy do it? The truth seal should not be able to use any ability. Is an inherent physical change? Furthermore, what was with this strange feeling? I am the hunter, but why do I feel like I have become the prey at that moment? Interesting. I thought this large world would be boring. I didn't expect such a talent to exist. Chapter 1808. In the stage play Fright Night, an old man named Corey played the role of the old butler. He was an animal smuggler himself. In this world where human and beast hybrids were the dominant species, animal smuggling was a first-class crime. But he was extremely good at escaping and had escaped capture for hundreds of years. He had a signature aquiline nose and an agile and thin figure. He was able to escape the pursuit of the Universe Federal Bureau many times because of his high mobility. He was born with 4 legs, and the extra legs were as slender as bamboo poles. They could usually fit between his main legs, and as long as he wore pants, it was impossible to see them. When the stage play started, he was teleported to the housekeeper's room. He quickly changed into the old butler's clothes and quickly got into the mood when he tidied up his clothes in front of the mirror. As a fugitive, his acting skills were naturally not bad. The old butler, S-Prop, was also a practical type, automatic map. It was essentially a blank sheepskin scroll. As long as he walked through an area, it would be accurately recorded on the sheepskin scroll. As long as he explored more areas, the map of the mansion would be more detailed. This prop also had a string of small words. When the exploration rate reaches 50% or more, the map will also record moving targets between the mansion. What a good thing. The later it gets, the more information I can grasp. Once the exploration reaches 50%, I can even monitor the movements of each participant to avoid danger in advance. Since this prop needed to be actively explored to be effective, Corey also brought out the temperament of a butler, held a candlestick, and began to explore the mansion. Of course, considering the dangerous situation that he might encounter, Corey cut his trouser legs in advance so that he could separate the appendages at any time to quickly escape. The exploration efficiency is quite high. As long as I open the door of any room, the detailed structure of the room will be directly imprinted on the sheepskin. What a good thing. However, if the room itself has a secret door, I still have to explore myself. There's no need for me to explore the secret door or secret passage in the early stages. I'll explore the surface first and reach a 50% exploration rate before considering the deeper things. Speaking of which, the mansion built by the circus was really like a maze. Since every passage looked exactly the same, it was easy to numb one's mind during a long period of exploration. My luck is not bad. Fortunately, I have a map here. Creak. When the old butler Corey pushed open a door on the second floor of the mansion again. Coincidentally, a bolt of lightning flashed through the window. In an instant, he actually saw a terrifying black shadow lying on the ceiling with a bloody mouth and a swaying bony tail. Its blood-red eyes were staring at him. Although he didn't feel any killing intent, his instincts were already urging him to run. What the hell is this? Corey's survival instincts were stimulated. His 2 thick appendages were already propped up on the ground, and he immediately fled at top speed. He didn't have much desire to fight, and usually he would just run away. After running for about a few hundred meters, he was about to turn back to see if that terrifying thing had caught up. Bang! Suddenly, he bumped into someone at the corner, and both of them fell to the ground at the same time. The terrified Corey hurriedly moved the candlestick closer to his eyes. The individual that was illuminated by the light wasn't the terrifying creature from before. Instead, it was a cold-looking brown-haired woman. Corey immediately recalled the family portrait he had seen in the housekeeper's office. "Miss Lys, I'm really sorry. A very dangerous creature has broken into the mansion. Please return to your room quickly." Corey played the role of the old housekeeper quite well. Even in such a tense situation, he still acted as the character. Miss Lys was the family's eldest daughter, and when she heard the housekeeper's words, she also seemed quite nervous. "My foot seems to have been sprained. The collision just now seemed to have injured her ankle, and she could only limp forward with the help of the housekeeper." During this period, Miss Lys kept looking behind her, on guard against any monsters chasing after her. "Housekeeper, the monster you mentioned doesn't seem to be chasing after us. My foot hurts. Should I take a break first?" "All right." The old housekeeper, Corey, glanced at the sheepskin map. They had fled for hundreds of kilometers. Although they couldn't open the rooms they passed along the way, the overall exploration rate had reached 18%. The two of them temporarily hid in a relatively narrow compartment, like a junk room. "Miss, let me see your injury. I'm really sorry, that monster is too scary." Corey was still very good at foot. If it was a minor injury to the joints, he was confident that it would be healed immediately. "It's okay." Miss Lys stretched out her white, jade-like foot. If it were any other day, Corey would probably lick it directly. During the performance, he could only suppress the desire in his heart and carefully examine the ankle injury. However, as he rubbed his fingers repeatedly, the old housekeeper, Corey, showed a puzzled look because he didn't find any injuries. "Miss, your foot." Halfway through his words, Corey suddenly froze, and his eyes quickly widened. His appendages and legs cooperated with each other and suddenly bounced up like a grasshopper. He needed to escape from this room. Just as he was about to reach the wooden door of the compartment, a thin thread suddenly shot out and tightly wrapped around his body, even drilling under his skin to restrict his muscles and joints. His body could no longer move. Corey turned his only unrestricted head and looked behind him in horror. Miss Lys was showing a morbid and surprised expression, but the voice coming out of her mouth was a strange man's voice. "Oh, how did you find me? You shouldn't be able to determine my identity just by not being injured, right? Answer my questions well, and maybe I'll make it less painful for you. There's something wrong with your skin. It's like a temporary paste. The bone structure and size are more like a man's, and there are lines wriggling between the blood vessels. I've been wondering from the beginning where the actor, this important person, is. It seems that you should be able to disguise yourself as any of us, so you didn't show up at the beginning. If I hadn't met that dog-like monster just now, I might have noticed your abnormality in advance. You're very smart. Older guys are more experienced. As promised, I won't make you suffer." His finger moved. A thin thread went directly through the back of his head, and his consciousness was cut off. The unconscious old housekeeper was dragged behind the actor, as if to be taken to a special area for treatment. The room that was currently being led into also had another secret. He gently pushed a certain wall brick. Boom! An elevator hidden in the wall appeared, and it seemed to lead straight to an unknown underground area. Just as the actor Matthew was about to drag the old housekeeper into the elevator, a bolt of lightning suddenly flashed outside the room. When the lightning flashed, a black shadow quickly broke through the window of the compartment. The sudden change stunned Matthew for a moment, but he also shot out the suture thread in the next second. Whoosh! However, the thread didn't completely hit the monster, but only shot into the opposite wall. But the end of the thread was dyed red, which should have caused some superficial damage to the monster. The black shadow had left through the window. Matthew himself was not injured, but the right side of the old housekeeper's clothes was torn off by the monster. This guy, did he follow me quietly all the way? The actor Matthew didn't chase out, but he suppressed his anger and took the old housekeeper to the basement. He had more important things to do. The wind was raging, and the snow and rain were falling outside the house. A canine was lying on the edge of the roof, holding part of the old housekeeper's torn clothes in its mouth, including the automatic map. Chapter 1809. The maze-like mansion had a total of 2 floors, plus a basement that could not be reached directly by stairs. The mansion itself was also soundproof. Even if there was no door separating them, the sound would be completely blocked if they were more than 5 meters away. No one else knew about the escape that just happened on the 2nd floor. Basement, the flames burning here showed a scarlet color. The old butler, Corey, was not dead yet. The pain and burning heat were stimulating his consciousness, and he gradually woke up from his coma. The more awake he was, the more intense the pain. When his eyes gradually opened, he saw that both sides of his shoulders were completely penetrated by black hooks, and his whole body was hanging in the air. The tendons of his hands and feet were cut off, and even the appendages he was proud of were completely cut off. There was no such thing as breaking free. Corey tilted his head as far as possible to look behind him. He was hanging on the sharp horn of a demon statue. There were a total of 10 such statues, which corresponded to the number of audience members. These demon statues all maintained the same posture, kneeling and holding a bowl. The blood dripping from Corey's body just happened to drip into the bowl. Because he was unconscious for a long time, the bowl was just full of blood. I said, "I won't give you too much pain." Actor Matthew, whose body was full of stitches, was standing in front of him, holding a long sword forged by a famous master in his hand. Buzz. Corey's vision became blurry, and he only felt a little cold on his neck. The pain caused by the piercing of his shoulder blade was lessening. When the head slid down, Matthew picked up the full bowl of blood and poured it all into his mouth. 2 slender appendages grew out between Matthew's knees, which did not affect his normal walking, but could greatly increase his movement speed. This was just a bonus brought by the stage play. When the circus performance was over and the seal of truth was lifted, he would also gain Corey's fate perception and various special abilities. As he killed more and more people in the game, Matthew would also gain more special abilities. The later it was, the less likely he was to survive. But no one knew about this information. On the 2nd floor of the mansion, the real eldest daughter of the family, Miss Rice, had been staying in her own room. The eldest daughter was played by Firma, who belonged to the extremely rare Foxman clan. The reason why it was rare was that the Foxman clan was talented and beautiful, and they also had a charm attribute. Such talent brought great disaster to their clan, and they were one of the favorite targets of smugglers. Moreover, the Foxman race was cunning by nature and would almost never become true friends with anyone. More often than not, they would scheme against others for some small benefits. When other life forms realized this, it would also cause them to be ostracized, making it difficult for them to survive in large cities. This Miss Firma, however, she was so easy to bully. She was an anomaly among the Foxmen, and her nature was extremely cunning and cruel. Furthermore, she was quite talented in assassination. She had used her appearance to infiltrate many trafficking organizations and killed all of their internal members. When she advanced to the mythical stage, her tail turned pure white, and she was called the white-tailed demon fox. However, she had no intention of protecting her people. She wandered around the various regions of the universe until she found an invitation to a circus. This identity is not bad. The item suits me very well. Moreover, the main storyline is also very clear. We just have to wait for a certain time before taking action. As the eldest daughter of the family, her character was extremely strong. Her character's items weren't functional, but rather offensive. Character item, Protective Dagger, deals additional damage to evil targets. A sharp dagger engraved with the family emblem was attached to the side of her long boots. The dagger also had a telescopic function, and its longest length was almost equivalent to a short sword. This item was extremely suitable for Firma. She had already practiced in her room for more than 10 minutes with the body of an ordinary person and was completely proficient in it. At the same time, she found a letter from Baron Holly on the table. Dear Miss Rice, I'm sorry that we can't hold our wedding as scheduled due to the recent bad weather. Today, I'm writing to you because I have something more important to tell you. Please believe what I'm about to write. I've already found out that your father, Viscount Macmillan, is a core member of the Mammon Church. Although I don't have direct evidence, I've already found many details that are enough to prove it when I went out with your father last time. Right now, your family is in a very dangerous situation. Recently, it was the birthday of the demon Mammon. Churches everywhere began to take action, causing a large number of people to go missing. Some sacrificial sites were even discovered in advance. I'll try to rush over and take you away before tonight. I hope this damn blizzard will stop early. What a boring plot. Does that mean we'll be sacrificed tonight? However, no matter how boring it is, I have to play along. The reward from the circus must be good. Let's just wait here for the danger to arrive. The reason why Firma had been staying in the room was not only to practice with the dagger. She also used her experience to fill the room with traps. If the other party took the initiative to come to the door, the traps would be triggered. With the restraint and damage brought by the traps, she could also assess the threat level of the other party. If she felt that she couldn't beat them, she would directly escape from the window that she had tied a rope in advance. Just as Firma was throwing the dagger up and down out of boredom, a series of footsteps came from outside the door. She caught the dagger and inserted it into the side of her boots. Thump! Thump! Who is it? Miss Rice, it's me, the butler. Baron Holly is here. What's the urgent matter? He wants to see you alone. According to the information given in the letter, the young lady and Baron Holly should be engaged. Combined with the background of the story, in the current situation, the young lady played by Firma would inevitably meet her fiancé who came from afar. If she refused here, even if she survived in the end, she wouldn't be able to pass the performance assessment. Is Holly here? Really? The blizzard hasn't stopped yet. I'll change my clothes and come out. She said to change her clothes. Firma actually used the crack of the door to observe the butler outside. After confirming that there was no mistake, she slowly opened the door. Baron Holly has been invited to the VIP room by me. He's enjoying the fresh soup made by the chef. I believe the chill has been dispelled. Please come with me. Just as the butler turned to lead the way. Swish! The dagger quickly and delicately pierced into the back of the butler's head. Hiss! Wisps of white smoke immediately came out of the wound. Seeing that the butler didn't die immediately, Firma pulled out the dagger and immediately retreated. Ouch! It hurts! I clearly applied for the head not to issue such offensive props to the eldest daughter. It hurts me every time. By the way, how did you find out? Firma said with a vigilant face. Wait, even if the physique is the same, the footsteps are exactly the same. But if the weight of the body is different, the footsteps will be different. When everyone was on stage, I listened carefully to everyone's footsteps, but you are different. The quality of your audience this time is really good. Halfway through, a series of silk threads shot out from the butler's head wound and were about to bind Firma. Swish! The dagger cut through the air, and all the threads were cut off. Oh, in the case of truth clothes, there is still such technology? What a good embryo. My eyes are really right. The butler with a fierce face suddenly grew an extra appendage and approached the eldest daughter at an incredible speed. When he stepped on the floor set at the door for sacrifice, he actually forced his way through with his speed. Firma was shocked by such speed and quickly ran to the window. She had already grabbed the long rope left in advance and was ready to jump out of the window with all her strength. When she was about to jump out of the window, a terrifying beast suddenly crawled over and occupied the window, forcing her to stop. Chapter 1810. 15 minutes ago, while Matthew took the old butler to the basement, Han Dong took advantage of this gap and walked through the second floor of the mansion as much as possible, so that the exploration of the map reached 40%. At the same time, he basically figured out the distribution of the family members on the second floor. Considering that the actor pretended to be the eldest daughter and contacted the old butler, The next target might be the eldest daughter, who also lived on the second floor. 5 minutes before the incident, Han Dong was already lying outside the eldest daughter's room. He did this not to frighten Firma, but to observe. Han Dong didn't want to deal with the actor alone. From the beginning, his plan was to unite the strength of the audience as much as possible. But here, he had to observe and choose. The addition of the week would reduce the overall quality. Han Dong, who was hiding outside the window, secretly spied on the eldest daughter's situation. He was quite surprised when he found that the other party was proficient in dagger techniques and recognized the actor's disguise in a short time. This woman is something. I can cooperate with her, and I can't delay any longer. I must defeat the actor as soon as possible. This guy actually got the ability of the butler. If this continues, it will be more and more impossible for him to survive. Han Dong had roughly figured out his main mission. As a loyal dog, he was obligated to protect the safety of everyone in the family and must not escape. This was also different from other participants. One of the conditions for completing the stage play was to protect the family and kill the murderer. However, in extreme cases, there was also a second main mission requirement. But if everyone in the family died, the obligation to protect would no longer exist, and he could escape as a loyal dog. In the past, the audience who played the role of a loyal dog in Fright Night all used the second way to survive. Because it had to meet the story requirements of the stage play, the actor had to have a good reason to choose the path of escape. If he left the mansion at will, he would inevitably be executed by the circus. Since Han Dong played the role of a loyal dog to protect his master, he also recognized the role of the eldest daughter. When the actor focused all his attention on the eldest daughter and chased to the window, Han Dong seized this moment and suddenly appeared. Perspective change. There's one more. Firma turned pale with fright. Window was her only escape route. Although she had tried to destroy the floor to create a passageway downstairs, she found that only the wooden floor could be destroyed. The floors were separated by a thick layer of black metal. Not to mention that an ordinary person's body couldn't destroy it. Even if they recovered their full strength, it would still be difficult for them to destroy this special metal. In front of him, when he reached the only escape window, he was blocked by a terrifying black monster. In a pincer attack, there was no way out. Also, the actor disguised as the butler was about to put his hand on Firma's body. A large amount of silk threads had appeared at the tip of his fingers. Once they touched Firma's body, the consequences would be unimaginable. At the critical moment, bang, the glass shattered. The terrifying shadow monster swept past Felma and pounced on the actor behind him. At this moment, Felma widened his eyes and observed the monster that was illuminated by the light. A terrifying man-dog appeared in his eyes. Even though the image had changed dramatically, Firma could still recognize it based on the details. This is a young man who voluntarily chose to play the role of a dog alive. When Firma realized this, he immediately rejected the idea of running away and decided to fight the enemy together with the dog. Whoosh! The sharp and polished fangs bit the shoulder of the actor who hadn't reacted yet. While tearing off the flesh, it also destroyed the shoulder joint and temporarily disabled one of the actor's hands. He didn't continue to fight. When the bite was successful, he stepped on the actor with all 4 limbs. Using the reaction force generated by the step, he was temporarily separated from the actor. The dog's body was faintly fixed in the triangular area of the roof. As for the actor who was stepped on, his body fell back heavily. The next second, Firma's dagger stabbed down and steadily landed on the actor's heart. This scene not only made the audience in the venue silent, but even the circus members who were watching behind the scenes were stunned. Hey, Matthew won't die, right? For a zombie like him, the heart is the real body and the only weakness. Under the circumstances of the truth, once he is exposed, he can't be saved. Not really. Although Matthew's strength is weak among us, he won't die like this. Whoosh! When the dagger stabbed into the heart, Firma twisted the blade at the same time. Hiss! The special effect of the dagger caused bursts of white smoke to rise, and a large amount of blood spurted on her face. Woof! Woof! Suddenly, a fierce barking sound came from behind, as if warning something. Miss Firma immediately pulled out the dagger, and a white foxtail was also exposed. While maintaining her balance, she directly retreated to the broken window. The actor, who fell to the ground, showed a strange smile. The pores on the surface of his body were wriggling with thin lines. If Firma left a little later, he might be in trouble. Your reaction is fast. I didn't expect there to be two delicious corpses in this performance. I'll leave you for last. Whoosh! Two slender appendages grew out from the back of the calf. The actor, who was lying on his back, raised his stomach and fled in a strange backward crawling posture. Han Dong naturally didn't intend to let him go. He turned into a vicious dog and chased after him. Unfortunately, he was completely shaken off by the actor at the first corner. The passage in front of him was empty. Although he could use the magic eye to see through everything, Han Dong wasn't prepared to expose his trump card here. The actor must be clear about the internal structure of the mansion. There was a high probability that he left the second floor through a secret passage. If the exploration rate of the automatic map can reach 50% and the coordinates of the living body can be displayed on the map, I might be able to catch up to him. I didn't expect this guy to slip away. When the back of his head was pierced by the eldest daughter's dagger, he acted completely fine. This time, he took the initiative to retreat. There was even a flash of panic in his eyes. Could it be that the weakness is the heart? Han Dong carefully recalled the battle scene just now. When the eldest daughter stabbed the dagger into his heart, the actor's hand that could barely move happened to be attached to his armpit, as if adjusting the position of his heart through thin lines. If that's the case, the result is still barely acceptable. Although I wasted a great opportunity, at least I found this guy's weakness. At this time, the eldest daughter with the dagger also followed. One person and one dog stood at the corner, staring at the empty passage, and then turned to return to the room. Inside the Scarlet Basement, the current scene will not be shown to the outside world. The actor had a big hole in his chest, and the whole heart was taken out. He placed down a clean disc and held his breath to suture the wound on the surface of the heart. At this moment, the surface of the heart cracked open, and a horrible sound came from inside. Matthew, you incompetent trash. You actually injured me during the performance. After being insulted, not only did he not get angry, he even started to tremble. I'll give you one more chance. If the next performance is not satisfactory, I'll consider replacing him. The woman just now is a very good choice. As for the dog, I instinctively dislike him. I won't make the same mistake again. After I sacrifice the others and let you taste their blood, I'll kill you. Finally, I'll deal with these two people in my best state. This time, I will give you the best performance. Chapter 1811. Eldest daughter room. Due to the needs of the stage play, Han Dong, as a dog, couldn't communicate in the form of dialogue. However, Han Dong had already come up with a countermeasure for this. Visual overlay. Thelma, who was playing the eldest daughter, suddenly had a double image appear in his vision. The image displayed a series of black tower common language. Next, we will communicate in this way to ensure that the performance goes on normally. You should also act natural. Don't let the audience see this communication method. The temporary cooperation just now was very pleasant, and I hope to continue to work together. I will share the information I have obtained so far and make a simple analysis and arrangement of the next actions. If you have any suggestions, you can make them. Firma didn't know how to communicate with the other party. She couldn't talk to her dog, right? Just as she had this idea, the relevant text was also imprinted in the visual image and was read by Han Dong. You only need to generate the thoughts you want to express in your consciousness, and the relevant content of the thoughts will be seen by me. You don't have to worry about this. We can get familiar with this mode after a little communication, which may be more efficient than a direct conversation. Even if she knew how to convey information to the dog, Firma still couldn't understand one thing. Visual communication was not a natural characteristic, but more like an ability. Logically speaking, everyone in the circus, including the actors, was sealed by the truth, and it was impossible to use advanced abilities. Firma didn't think much about it. The first task was to survive in the stage play. Judging from the performance just now, the human dog in front of her was worth cooperating with, and it could even greatly increase the survival rate. Based on her experience of close contact with the opposite sex over the years, this opposite sex was obviously different and had an inexplicable sense of strength. In this way, the two temporarily stayed in the bedroom. The audience in the venue looked like a person and a dog taking a break from the fierce battle just now. In fact, the two were carrying out efficient, visual communication. As Han Dong gave various information, Firma was also quite shocked. She didn't expect that Han Dong could get so much key information in such a short time, including that once a family member was killed, the actor would get the other party's special ability. There was also a hidden basement structure in this mansion, and the actor could quickly go to the basement through the many secret passages in the building. Most importantly, it was the weakness of the heart that he had deduced during the battle just now. Miss Firma listened very carefully and expressed her complete approval of Han Dong's plan without any superfluous comments. In addition, although visual communication was an ability of the magic eye, it would not expose this important trump card. This principle was similar to cheating in some games. If you were able to see through the entire map without even acting, whose account would be banned if not yours? However, if it was just to do something more secretive, such as picking up some equipment, it would be very difficult for the system to detect it. Because of the battle just now, the actors probably won't take the initiative to come into contact with us again. Instead, they'll choose other audience members as their targets. According to the screening criteria I mentioned, seize the time to interact with the other audience members. If the other party met the standards, they would be allowed to join. If they didn't meet the standards, they would be mainly focused on seizing the item. In addition, as long as we explore the first floor a little more, my map will gain the ability to detect living things, which will allow us to better grasp the overall situation. Let's go. I have a small suggestion. Firma projected her thoughts on her retina. When I was on stage, I observed the physical details of the other participants. Although everyone was limited to the state of an ordinary person, there were still differences in the physical details. Other than not being able to read too much information from you, I can read a lot of useful information from the other participants. I suggest that we contact the uncle who plays the head chef first. His steps are very heavy, his center of gravity is very stable, and every movement seems heavy and powerful. He should meet the selection criteria you set. In addition, it's the actor of playful young Master Tom, but this person doesn't seem to be very sociable. Well, let's start with the head chef. The communication was completed. Woof Han Dong pretended to bark, saliva constantly seeping out from the torn corner of his mouth. Firma also threw the dagger into the air, caught it when she got up, and put it back in her boots. The demon hunting team, formed by the young lady and the dog, officially embarked on their journey. In the hall on the first floor, visiting Baron Holly was waiting in the VIP room. He had only drunk 1/3 of the hot soup on the table. From time to time, he would get up and walk back and forth in the room, trying to act out a sense of anxiety as much as possible, showing that he was eager to inform his fiancée of the important information he had investigated. On the surface, he was very anxious, but his heart was filled with killing intent as time passed. Why is it so slow? Is it because this stinky woman refuses to come down, or that old butler didn't inform the right information? This woman clearly only needs to meet up with me, and we will have a legitimate reason to leave this mansion and end the show early. I don't think it's that simple. I'll go find this woman myself. When I leave the circus, I'll definitely kill her. The actor was called Simmerat. He looked gentle on the outside, wore a pair of glasses, and was the research director of the Beast City Biological Experiment Institute. But in private, he was a psychopathic murderer. He randomly selected targets, completely following a pattern. At the same time, he would use his identity as a researcher to create an alibi, and repeatedly use biological brain modification technology to create a scapegoat to clear his suspicion. Baron Holly, who was played by him, was a key character in the plot. He knew from the beginning that the owner of the house was a devil believer, and the whole family would be slaughtered and sacrificed tonight. Prop: Baron's compass. When the individual chooses other members of the family as the target, the compass will always point in the right direction, giving the shortest path guidance. The Baron immediately locked onto eldest daughter as the target, and the compass would first lead him to the only staircase between the floors. Just as he opened the door of the VIP room, he was suddenly stunned. The old butler was standing at the door and said apologetically, "Baron Holly, I'm really sorry. Eldest daughter is not feeling well today." Before he could finish his words, whoosh, the palm, with white gloves quickly inserted into the Baron's neck from the side, avoiding the carotid artery to avoid direct death, and went straight for the cervical vertebra. Crack! The cervical vertebra was broken. The butler also showed part of the stitching that belonged to the actor. After being reprimanded by the heart, he must speed up the hunting speed and regain the trust of the heart. Since the Baron in front of him was not suspicious, he went straight for the vital part. If the cervical vertebra was broken, any ordinary person would be paralyzed and fall to the ground. But this director, Simmerat, from the Biological Research Institute, stood still. His hobby of killing was not purely to vent his desire. In the early days, when he was still young, he would secretly perform human surgery by hunting living bodies. In the end, he used the results of the surgery on himself. Even with the truth restriction, some of the biological modifications caused by the surgery still existed. His nervous system could control the whole body without relying on the spine. Bang! He kicked the butler heavily and picked up the wooden chair next to him at the same time. Crack! The wooden pieces scattered and directly knocked a huge hole in the butler's head, and even the brain juice flowed out. Simmerat himself was not feeling well. The pain caused by the broken cervical vertebra was very intense. Seeing that the other person's brain juice flowed out, he should not be able to move for a short time, so he covered the bulging back of his neck with one hand and tried to escape as far as possible. When he reached a safe area, he would perform self-surgery and try to return the cervical vertebra to its original position. However, because he could not spy on the actor's true ability, he did not know that the other party had long-range means. He hadn't even run 10 meters yet. Whoosh! Several thin threads shot into his back. Even if the number of nerves in his body was 3 times that of an ordinary person, he still could not break free from the control of the thin threads. Bang! He fell heavily to the ground and clung to the ground with his last strength. The perseverance of a murderer forced him to continue to struggle and crawl for about 3 meters. Accompanied by a desperate scream, he left a string of fingernail scratches on the ground and was finally dragged into the darkness. Chapter 1812. There was only one staircase connecting the floors of the mansion, except for some unknown secret passages. Miss Firma and the dog didn't have time to search for secret passages. They went to the first floor along the only staircase in the center of the mansion, ready to meet the chef. Just as they reached the staircase, a slender shadow slowly crawled out of the dark passage opposite them. It was a thin young man with messy hair that almost covered his face. When he stopped, he would lick the back of his hand. It was the actor of Slime Mr. Voss' cat. Miss Firma, who was acting as Miss Firma, squatted down and tried to get the other party to come over. The cat quickly observed the 2 people, turned around, and quickly disappeared into the dark passage. This must be the actor of Mr. Voss. I didn't expect him to be so good at disguising himself. He can also move freely and quickly on the wall. Unfortunately, he doesn't seem to want to come in contact with us. Let's not waste any more time. Firma nodded and said her impression of this person. This person is the lightest among the participants. He is relatively unsociable. When we gathered on the stage, he deliberately kept a distance from everyone. Just as the 2 stepped down the stairs and arrived at the hall on the first floor, Han Dong, who was imitating a dog, kept his limbs close to the ground at all times. He vaguely felt a continuous vibration from the ground, as if someone was fighting. Since the mansion blocked out sound, touch was the best way to sense it. Woof woof. Han Dong barked twice at the side passage and immediately rushed forward. Firma quickly took out her dagger and followed at full speed. When the two arrived, the battle in the passage had already ended. At the same time, in Han Dong's map of freedom, it showed that the room on the side was called the VIP room. Mr. Han, this is the area where Baron Holly is. According to the plot, the Baron belongs to my fiancée. He came here in the snow tonight because he sensed danger in advance and wanted to take me away. It seems that he has been taken away by the actors. Firma's expression became a little ugly. In fact, she also wanted to meet up with the Baron so that she would have a legitimate reason to escape. This guy is quite capable. When he was attacked by the actors, he made a strong counterattack and even smashed the actors' heads. Unfortunately, he was still controlled by the lines in the end. The actor was actually able to counterattack to such an extent even though he had hit first. There was something very special about the person who played the Baron. Unfortunately, this uniqueness will soon be transferred to the actors, and it will be more difficult for the two of us to deal with it. Let's go and meet the head chef. After Han Dong came to a conclusion based on the traces of fighting at the scene, he did not continue to stay and immediately began to explore the first floor. Due to the large scale of the building and the fact that it blocked out sound, it was impossible to slowly explore the area if one wanted to find other people. Instead, one had to quickly sprint through the building. The exploration value of the map slowly approached 50%, and the living display function was activated. Not long after, Han Dong, who was rushing through a corridor, seemed to smell the scent of meat in the air. Perhaps it was because he was too immersed in the role that his sense of smell was enhanced. The best way to search for the head chef was through the taste. Under Han Dong's guidance, the two of them quickly found the kitchen area that reeked of blood. What was strange was that there was actually a strange scarlet luster under the crack of the door. Coupled with the abnormal smell of meat, it was more like a slaughterhouse. Firma also felt that something was not right. It's a bit strange. Should we continue to test this person as planned? Yes, let's start. Help! Help! A cry for help that was close to tearing the throat was heard. The panicked eldest daughter crazily knocked open the kitchen door as if some horrible creature was chasing her. Just when she wanted to escape inside, the scene in front of her stunned her. First, she stepped on the thick and sticky blood. When she lifted her foot, the blood on the sole of her foot was completely pulled out. The whole kitchen was covered with blood. On the countertop, the washing basin, and the hook, there were all white pig corpses that had their bellies cut open. Most of them were still fresh. Blood was constantly flowing out of the body, and all the bones were removed. At the same time, there was another important characteristic. The head of these white pigs were all chopped off. This was the main reason why the smell of meat overflowed. A 2-meter-tall head chef wearing a black leather apron was standing in the depths of the kitchen, and the butcher knife in his hand was constantly swinging. Every time he swung the knife, there would be a tragic pig cry, so much so that it completely covered the eldest daughter's cry for help. The head chef only knew that someone had broken in. Although his eyes were looking at the door, the butcher knife in his hand did not stop. This scene scared Firma. If she did not know in advance that actor was absorbing the characteristics of Baron in the basement, she would definitely regard the head chef as the most dangerous existence. Head chef, there is a terrible monster chasing me. The butler and Baron Holly have been killed by it. With that, Firma had already run to the head chef's side, acting the whole time. However, Firma was still instinctively wary of the head chef, fearing that he would suddenly stab her. At the same time, when she came to the butcher area where the head chef was, she saw an even more terrible scene. The slaughtered pig heads were all piled up in the food warehouse at the back. When Firma looked over, she even felt that every pig head was staring at her, and her body could not help but tremble. At this moment, Han Dong, who had transformed into a human dog, chased in, constantly exhaling white gas from his mouth, and his spine tail swaying wildly. With extremely fast movements, he continuously stepped on the ground, the countertop, and the side wall, heading straight for the head chef. Facing such a terrible creature, the head chef not only had no expression, but also stood up straight. He did not wave the butcher knife in his hand, but instead, he stretched out another rough and huge palm. At this moment, Han Dong foresaw a terrible future scene. If he continued to jump forward, he would be grabbed by the neck by the head chef and pressed on the chopping board. The whole dog head would be chopped off, and the whole process was not sloppy at all. Realizing this, Han Dong immediately hooked a hard object on the side with his tail, forcibly stopping his forward movement in the air. Seeing that a bloody battle was about to break out in the kitchen area, the head chef seemed to have noticed something, and his serious eyes returned to normal. A deep and steady voice came from the head chef's mouth. "Are you two playing like this for fun? Or are you deliberately testing me?" "Head chef, how did you know?" the young lady next to him said with a surprised face. "The degree of horror in my place should not be low, but you fled in without considering the danger. Although according to the character setting and the situation of you being chased, it barely makes sense. Then, this human dog's attack is also very intuitive. It clearly could have attacked from a more tricky angle, but it chose the most inappropriate front. With that, he began to slaughter the white pig again. Even if the kitchen knife was completely curved, he still chopped off the pig's head and threw it in the back warehouse." The young lady explained, "That's right. The real danger is the imposter in our house. He just pretended to be a butler and attacked me. Fortunately, the dog came to help me escape. We are looking for trustworthy partners with the ability to distinguish between them to fight against the imposter together." The young lady explained in an acting way. Han Dong had begun to communicate with the head chef through visual synchronization. The other party's ability to accept was very high, and he said that he could cooperate with the two. Han Dong was also overjoyed. He did not expect the quality of the audience for this performance to be so high. "Let me pack up and we can act." The head chef walked out of the back warehouse where the ingredients were stored, as if he was going to deal with the pig's head. He even closed the warehouse door. "This head chef is really good. Miss Firma, you have good eyesight." Isn't that so?" The personnel inspection requested by Han Dong was very necessary. Not everyone could be pulled in for cooperation. If they could not distinguish between real and fake, once they were confused by the actors later on, the team would directly disintegrate from the inside. After a while, the head chef with a sutured pig's head on his waist walked out. "Let's go and kill that guy." Chapter 1813. After a simple exchange, including the head-on contact from the previous simple battle, Han Dong gradually had a definite impression of this head chef. First of all, he could be trusted. The other party belonged to the category of honest. Why was there a quotation mark? Because this guy was very honest, and the matter of slaughter was as normal as breathing. Coincidentally, his name was Cliff, and he was also a chef in his original world. He had even won many international awards. He looked like a world-class chef with a strong body. An incident in the past had unearthed another side of him. About 40 years ago, he was invited by the ruler of a planet to be the head chef of a state banquet, who knew that the local rebellion army, which had been planning for a long time, was ready to launch a general attack during the banquet. When they thought that they could easily break down the defense line of the planet's headquarters and successfully seize power. About 80% of the living bodies of the entire army, including some armored vehicles and flying devices, were destroyed by this head chef of unknown origin. "Mr. Cliff, is your prop as the head chef this pig head?" Han Dong was very concerned about the stitched pig head hanging on the other party's waist. Judging from the dense stitches, it was stitched together by at least 20 different pig heads. Moreover, from the beginning of the performance until now, the head chef had not explored the mansion at all. He had stayed in the kitchen to slaughter the white pigs, as if it was for the production of this pig head. Not to mention how there were so many white pigs in the mansion. Such behavior was very unusual. "No, pig has a special meaning to me. This pig head is more useful than my prop. My prop is the chef's apron that I wear. As long as it is stained with the blood of a living body, it can carry out a scent mark for up to an hour. I can sense the specific location of the other party based on the smell of blood. Good stuff. Han Dong regretted that he hadn't come to see this head chef earlier. If he had met him earlier, he could have directly marked the location of the actor in the previous battle, and he might even have been able to track down the secret passage leading to the basement. Chef Cliff continued to ask, "Are we going to look for traces of the actor now, or continue to recruit?" Both are going on at the same time. The actor is speeding up the hunt. We are very likely to meet this guy during the recruitment process. Like I said before, be careful of the thread. Once it enters the body, it will take over your nerves. Normal people's bodies are basically unable to resist it. Yes, I'll be careful. When the demon hunting team, formed by the Misty, the head chef, and the dogs officially started their search, there was a participant in the mansion who was in a state of extreme panic. He was walking around the second floor without a clue. The weakest person among the audience of Fright Night was definitely the actor of playful young Master Tom, Gracie. He didn't even find the circus through the flyer himself. He found a circus based on clues. Instead, he had stolen a package from a mysterious person and was hunted down by various people of unknown origin. He was forced to flee to this planet. Seeing that the black fog between the mountains provided a very good concealment effect, he blended into it alone. Who knew that when he was hiding in the mountains, he would accidentally come to the entrance of the circus in the foothills. What was even more coincidental was that the package he stole just happened to contain the flyer. As there was no food during the escape, Gracie, who was starving, became one of the audience when he learned that the circus was providing free food. When he was watching the performance just now, he almost peed his pants when he saw the dancers tear apart the audience. Currently, he was like a headless fly walking around the second floor of the mansion. He just wanted to leave as soon as possible. Although he thought of jumping out of the mansion directly from the window, but when he was close to the window, he was scared by a black shadow of a monster that suddenly crawled past him. He immediately gave up the idea of jumping out of the window. Why is this place like a maze? Will the black monster I saw just now suddenly appear? It looks like a large mansion from the outside. Why is it so complicated? I have to go to the first floor as soon as possible. Maybe I can meet up with everyone. Then I can use their cover to escape from this damn place. Even though Gracie was running around in a panic, his right hand was still holding on to something. Character prop. Mother's pocket watch. This prop was the most special of all the character props. According to the setting of the story, it was a relic left by the dead wife to her youngest son. The description of the effect was also very strange. The holder will be protected by Mrs. Macmillan. However, Gracie had never seen the specific effect of the pocket watch until now. So far, he had been wandering around the second floor for almost an hour, but he still couldn't find any direction. He couldn't even return to the original room, just when he was about to fall into despair. In a compartment not far behind Gracie, a secret door of an elevator connected to the basement rotated and opened. Actor Matthew, who was sewn together, had just completed the sacrificial ceremony. He had successfully obtained the ability of the Baron actor. His nerve reaction speed had doubled, and his body functions had also grown in all aspects. Just when he walked out of the door and was ready to find the next target, he happened to run into the lost young master. My luck is not bad. Let's just get rid of him. Because he was just at the limit of the shooting range, a few thin lines were shot from the tip of his finger. They were about to shoot into the cervical vertebra and the back of the head. Gracie suddenly staggered and fell to his knees, just in time to avoid the thin lines. Actor Matthew frowned. In his normal state, he couldn't control the direction of the thin lines. Once he missed, he had to retract them. He retracted the thin lines and aimed at the young master kneeling on the ground again. Whoosh! The thin lines were shot at an even faster speed and were about to hit the target. Due to the fall just now, the pocket watch in the young master's hand flew out. Gracie, who had lost his life-saving prop, crawled forward crazily and tightly grabbed the pocket watch that was thrown 5 meters away. As a result, the thin lines were lost again and pierced into the floor. Crack! Gracie heard the strange sound of the floor cracking and immediately turned his head. He saw a living dead, covered with stitches, standing not far away. His facial features were almost scrunched together, and he seemed to be quite angry. "Ah, help!" Gracie, who felt the danger, rolled and crawled forward. Actor Matthew didn't chase after him immediately. Instead, he punched the wall heavily. He wasn't in a good mood. The operation just now directly raised his blood pressure to the maximum, and he was almost infuriated. "I'm going to kill this guy." He didn't pretend anymore. He directly started to chase after the young master with his original body. Then, another very coincidental thing happened. Gracie, who had been wandering on the second floor and couldn't find the right direction, unexpectedly came to the only staircase while running in a panic. At the same time, the actor also chased after him. This time, more than a dozen thin lines were shot at different parts of the body. It was impossible for Gracie to avoid them. As long as one of them hit him, the chase would end. However, because Gracie was running so fast, she accidentally missed a step on the stairs. His whole body rolled down like a meatball, just in time to avoid all the thin lines that were shot at him. Not only that, the newly formed Demon Hunter trio also passed by the staircase at this time. Gracie, who rolled down the stairs, directly fell into the arms of the head chef. Only the skin on his head and shoulders were a little scratched, but he was completely fine. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.